There are people who live very kindly. They do not steal. They do not cheat. They are always willing to help everyone around them. But their lives are still full of sorrow. They face endless troubles. Their relationships break down. Their peace of mind is constantly disturbed. Many of us look at these situations and ask why. We wonder if cause and effect is truly fair. The answer is often hidden right on our lips. It is hidden in the words we speak every single day. Many people believe they are living a virtuous life. They think that avoiding severe crimes makes them entirely pure. But the law of karma is deeply subtle. It measures the vibrations of our speech. It measures the hidden intentions in our daily conversations. Think about the casual chats we have. Think about the whispers at the workplace. Think about the time spent discussing the flaws of someone who is not present. We often call it harmless gossip. We believe that words simply vanish into thin air. This is a profound misunderstanding. Words never simply vanish. They take root. Every time you speak ill of another person, you are creating a very real energy. You are casting a stone into a calm lake. The stone may sink out of sight, but the ripples spread outward. When you judge someone, you are not just describing their flaws. You are inviting negative energy into your own space. Let us look at a story of a skilled weaver. He lived in a quiet town. He wove the most beautiful silk. Everyone admired his dedication. But he had a deeply ingrained habit. He could not stand seeing other weavers succeed. Whenever someone praised a different artist, he would smile thinly. He would softly point out a tiny flaw in their fabric. He would whisper about their lack of discipline. He did not shout. He did not destroy their shops. He only used soft whispers. He thought he was simply telling the truth. But over the years, a strange heaviness settled over his life. Customers stopped feeling joyful in his shop. His beautiful silk felt cold to the touch. His own mind became restless. He could not sleep. He became a prisoner of the doubts he planted in the minds of others. This is the invisible burden we carry. When we speak ill of others, we think we are pushing them down. We think we are elevating ourselves. But in the realm of karma, the exact opposite happens. You lower yourself. You tie a heavy weight to your own spirit. When your mouth shapes words of bitterness, your brain is the first to hear them. Before your words reach the listener, they have already traveled through your own nervous system. They have painted your inner world with dark colors. You have given away your peace for a moment of idle chatter. We often forget the incredible power of speech. Speech is a sacred gift. When used with malice, it becomes an invisible blade. The law of cause and effect is absolute. The weight of that damage simply returns to the one who initiated it. Instead of nurturing kind roots in our hearts, we allow poisonous seeds to quietly take hold in the dark soil of the mind. We allow poisonous seeds to quietly take hold in the dark soil of the mind. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to plant these seeds? It often happens in our most relaxed moments. We sit with friends over a cup of tea. We share a meal with our family. The atmosphere is warm and comfortable. Then someone brings up a familiar name. Someone mentions a person who recently made a mistake. Suddenly the tone of the room shifts. A strange excitement fills the air. We lean in closer to hear the details. We nod our heads in agreement. We add our own small pieces of judgment. We think we are just sharing news. We think we are just passing the time. But in that exact moment, a seed is planted. It is a seed of bitterness. We do not see it with our physical eyes. But the law of cause and effect records everything perfectly. The universe does not judge our actions by how loud they are. The universe measures the intention behind every single breath. When we speak about the flaws of others, our intention is rarely pure. Deep down, there is a subtle desire to see them lower than us. There is a hidden satisfaction in their failure. This hidden satisfaction is the water that nourishes the bitter seed. Let us consider a story about a very successful merchant. He lived in a prosperous valley. He sold the finest spices in the region. His business brought him great wealth. Across the street lived a younger merchant. This young man had just opened a small shop. He sold simple herbs. But he was incredibly kind. He always smiled warmly at everyone. Customers began to visit the young man just to feel his good energy. The wealthy merchant noticed this shift. He did not lose any money. His wealth was completely secure. Yet a quiet jealousy began to stir inside his heart. He did not attack the young man physically. He did not hire thieves to ruin the small shop. He chose a much quieter weapon. He used casual conversation. When customers came to buy his expensive spices, he would offer them a friendly smile. Then he would casually mention the young man across the street. He would say, "His herbs are fresh, but I hear they come from the muddy side of the river." Another day he would say, "He is very polite, but sometimes people hide their true nature behind a smile." These were small sentences. They were delivered softly. But they carried a heavy poison. Slowly the townspeople began to change. They looked at the young man with suspicion. They stopped visiting his shop. The young man could not understand why the warmth of the town had vanished. Eventually he closed his small shop. He left the valley with a broken heart. The wealthy merchant watched him leave. He felt a brief moment of victory. But this victory was completely empty. A few months later, something strange began to happen to the wealthy merchant. He started to lose his sense of taste. He could no longer smell the beautiful fragrance of his own spices. The food he ate tasted like ash. His sleep was filled with disturbing shadows. He had successfully ruined the young man. But he had also ruined his own capacity for joy. This is the immediate spiritual cost of speaking ill of others. We think our words only affect the victim. This is a fatal illusion. The first victim of your negative speech is always you. When you focus on the flaws of another person, your mind must hold on to those flaws. Your mind becomes a container for garbage. To describe something bitter, you must first taste the bitterness yourself. You cannot throw mud at someone without getting your own hands dirty. Every time we judge someone, we lose a small piece of our own light. Our heart becomes a little more narrow. Our vision becomes a little more clouded. We start to see the entire world through a lens of suspicion. If we constantly speak about dishonesty, we will start to believe that everyone is dishonest. If we constantly point out the failures of others, we will live in constant fear of failing ourselves. The external world simply becomes a mirror of our internal conversations. This is why everyday chatter holds such hidden danger. We do not realize how much energy we leak through casual complaints. We spend hours analyzing the lives of people we barely know. We dissect their choices. We criticize their clothing. We laugh at their mistakes. We do all of this while completely ignoring the beautiful things in our own lives. We become experts on the flaws of others. But we remain completely ignorant of our own inner workings. We must wake up to this reality. We must look at the seeds we are planting right now. Look at the conversations you had today. Were they filled with encouragement? Or were they filled with subtle complaints? Did your words lift someone up? Or did they gently push someone down? We have the power to change this habit immediately. We can choose to stop watering the bitter seeds. When a conversation turns toward gossip, we can simply stay quiet. We can offer a gentle smile and change the subject. We do not need to judge the people who are gossiping. We just need to protect our own mind. We must stand guard at the door of our own mouth. Healing begins with simple awareness. Healing begins when we realize that every word is a living entity. Every word has a pulse. Every word carries a vibration that shapes our destiny. If we want a sweet life, we must plant sweet words. We must cultivate a garden of kindness within our own speech. But what happens when we lose control? What happens when the bitter seeds grow too fast? Sometimes a small whisper escapes our control and becomes a massive storm. A tiny spark of judgment can easily ignite a fire that we can no longer contain. A tiny spark of judgment can easily ignite a fire that we can no longer contain. We rarely see the true speed of a rumor. We hold a small thought in our mind. It feels light. It feels harmless. We share it with just one person. We whisper it quietly. We think we have control over where it goes. But words do not obey our commands once they leave our lips. They take on a life of their own. They grow wings. They travel across distances we cannot even imagine. They feed on the dry wood of human curiosity. Imagine dropping a single lit match onto a dry forest floor. The match is tiny. You can hold it easily between two fingers. You can blow it out with a single breath. But the moment it touches the dry leaves, it transforms. It is no longer just a match. It becomes a wild and consuming force. It sweeps across the mountains. It devours ancient trees. It destroys homes. It changes the entire landscape in a matter of hours. A malicious word operates in the exact same way. It is a spark of dark energy. Let us look at a story about a high mountain village. In this peaceful place, there lived a renowned tea master. He had many students. But two of them stood out. One student was naturally gifted. He had a pure heart. He brewed tea that tasted like fresh spring rain. People traveled from far away just to taste his tea. The other student worked incredibly hard. But his tea was always just ordinary. He lacked the natural grace of his peer. One evening, the hard-working student felt a bitter pang of jealousy. He sat by the fire with some villagers. He wanted to feel important for just one moment. So he leaned forward and whispered a lie. He said the gifted student did not have real skill. He claimed the gifted student secretly added intoxicating herbs to the tea to trick everyone. He said the tea was an illusion. It was just one sentence. It took only 5 seconds to speak. The hard-working student went to sleep that night and forgot about his words. He woke up the next morning feeling perfectly fine. But his sentence did not sleep. His sentence walked through the village in the dark. It traveled from house to house. It multiplied with every retelling. Each person added their own small exaggeration. By the end of the week, the entire village had changed. No one wanted to drink tea from the gifted student. They looked at him with deep suspicion. They called him a fraud behind his back. The warm smiles he used to receive turned into cold stares. The gifted student was deeply confused and profoundly hurt. He could not understand why the world had suddenly turned to ice. His spirit broke. He packed his small bag. He left the mountain village forever in the middle of the night. The hard-working student watched him leave. Suddenly, a crushing weight fell upon his chest. He saw the empty room of his peer. He realized he had completely destroyed a beautiful life. He had ruined a pure talent. Panic and deep regret filled his mind. He ran to the old tea master. He fell to his knees and cried. He confessed his small whisper. He begged the master for a way to fix it. He wanted to take his words back. The master looked at him with eyes full of deep sadness. The master spoke softly. He said, "You cannot unburn a forest. When a fire burns a mountain, everything turns to ash. The animals flee. The soil is scorched. The beauty is gone." The student asked if his sincere apology would change anything. The master explained the precise mathematics of cause and effect. An apology is like a gentle rain falling on a burnt forest. The rain is beautiful. The rain is absolutely necessary. It cools the hot ground. It stops the fire from spreading to the very next mountain. But the rain does not bring the dead trees back to life. The rain does not instantly rebuild the destroyed homes. This is a surprising and painful perspective. We often believe that saying sorry wipes the slate clean. We believe that if we feel genuine guilt, our karma is magically erased. But karma is not a system of human emotions. Karma is a strict law of nature. If you push a heavy boulder down a steep hill, it will crush whatever is in its path. Your regret at the top of the hill will not rebuild the crushed houses at the bottom. The action has a reaction. The damage remains real. The hard-working student had to live with the ashes he created. He spent the rest of his life trying to rebuild the trust he broke. He learned that building something beautiful takes a lifetime of dedication. But destroying it takes only a single sentence. He realized his own hands were permanently stained with the smoke of his own words. This sounds frightening. But it is not meant to create fear in your heart. It is meant to awaken your deepest awareness. When you truly understand the incredible power of your words, you become extremely careful. You become an artist of speech. You stop speaking on autopilot. You realize that your tongue can be a weapon of mass destruction. Or it can be a tool for profound and miraculous healing. The choice happens in a split second. The choice happens right before you open your lips. If you realize you have started a fire in the past, do not drown in despair. We all make mistakes out of ignorance. The way to heal this karma is not to punish yourself forever. The way to heal is to become a river. A river does not judge the fire. It simply flows over the scorched earth. It brings steady water. It slowly brings life back to the dead soil. You must spend the rest of your days speaking words of immense kindness. You must use your voice to uplift every single person you meet. You must become a source of cool water for a burning world. This is the only true way to balance the scales. You must plant 10 beautiful trees for every one you burn down. You must speak 10 words of praise for every word of criticism. You must make your speech a sanctuary of peace. But we must look even deeper. We must ask a very uncomfortable question. Why do we strike the match in the first place? Why do we feel the sudden urge to speak badly of others? Why does the human mind find strange comfort in watching someone else stumble and fall? We are not inherently evil. We are just deeply wounded. The desire to criticize others does not come from a place of strength. It comes from a hidden place inside us. We judge others because we are terrified of looking at our own reflection. We judge others because we are terrified of looking at our own reflection. Have you ever wondered why criticism feels so effortless? Why does it take almost no energy to find a flaw in someone else? Yet it takes immense effort to see our own shortcomings. We often think our harsh words are born from a desire for truth. We convince ourselves that we are simply pointing out reality. But the truth is much more painful. The urge to speak ill of others is almost never about them. It is always about us. When we harbor deep insecurities, the mind looks for a way to escape. The ego cannot handle the pain of feeling inadequate. So it creates a brilliant distraction. It shifts the spotlight. It points a sharp finger outward. If we can find someone who is worse than us, we suddenly feel a little bit safer. If we can tear down another person, our own foundation feels a little more stable. This is a tragic illusion. We are using the flaws of others as a shield to hide our own deep wounds. Let us look at a story of a highly respected scholar. He lived in a great monastery with a vast library. He had memorized thousands of ancient texts. He possessed a razor-sharp intellect. But his heart was very cold. He spent his days watching the younger monks. Whenever a young monk made a mistake in chanting, the scholar would laugh loudly. He would publicly humiliate them for mispronouncing a single word. He would loudly critique the way they walked. He would mock the simple questions they asked. The younger monks were terrified of him. They tried to avoid him at all costs. The scholar felt a deep sense of superiority. He thought his sharp tongue proved his great wisdom. One afternoon, a very quiet traveler visited the monastery. The traveler did not bring any books. He only brought a small wooden box. The scholar immediately approached the traveler. He wanted to show off his vast knowledge. He started lecturing the traveler about ancient philosophies. He pointed out the dusty clothes of the traveler. He judged the traveler for carrying such a simple wooden box. The traveler smiled gently. He did not defend himself. He simply opened the wooden box. Inside the box was a perfectly polished mirror. He held the mirror up to the face of the proud scholar. The scholar stopped speaking immediately. For the first time in many years, he looked deeply into his own eyes. He did not see a wise man. He saw a face twisted with arrogance. He saw eyes that were completely empty of love. He saw a man who was deeply lonely. The scholar suddenly realized the terrifying truth. He had spent his entire life studying words. But he had never studied his own heart. He criticized the young monks because he secretly envied their pure faith. He mocked their simple questions because he was terrified that he did not know the real answers. His entire personality was built on pulling others down. Without someone to criticize, he was completely hollow. He realized his sharp tongue was a defense mechanism. He used big words to hide his small heart. When the mirror showed him his true self, the illusion shattered. He saw the heavy wrinkles of bitterness on his forehead. He saw the tight line of his jaw. He saw how ugly his spirit had become while he was busy judging others. He fell to his knees and wept bitterly. This is the exact moment of awakening. Awakening does not always happen in a state of pure bliss. It often happens in a moment of shattering honesty. This is the profound tragedy of a critical mind. We build our towers of pride on the broken confidence of others. But a tower built on suffering will eventually collapse. When you feel a strong urge to speak ill of someone, you must stop and look within. You must treat that urge as an alarm bell. The universe is giving you a very clear signal. Your mind is trying to tell you that something inside you needs immediate healing. If you constantly judge people for being lazy, perhaps you are secretly exhausted. You might be pushing yourself too hard and resenting those who rest. If you constantly criticize people for being loud, perhaps you feel unheard in your own life. You might be angry that others take up the space you are afraid to claim. The things that irritate us most about others are often the exact things we deny in ourselves. The world is nothing but a giant mirror. When your mind is covered in the dust of anger, everything you see looks dirty. You can look at a beautiful blooming lotus, and you will only see the mud on its stem. You will miss the vibrant petals. You will ignore the sweet fragrance. You will become obsessed with the dirt. This is not because the lotus is flawed. It is because your vision is clouded. To clean the world, you must first clean the lens of your own perception. Understanding this requires immense honesty. It is very painful to admit that our judgments are just reflections of our own pain. It strips away our feeling of moral superiority. It leaves us completely naked before our own conscience. But this vulnerability is the exact place where true spiritual growth begins. We must be willing to face our own ugliness. We must be brave enough to admit our own faults. When you stop pointing fingers outward, you reclaim your lost energy. You can finally use that energy to heal your own heart. The next time you catch yourself preparing to speak a harsh word, simply pause. Take a very deep breath. Ask yourself a very gentle question. Ask what part of you is hurting right now. What hidden insecurity is demanding to be fed? When you look at your own pain with deep compassion, the desire to hurt others simply melts away. You realize that everyone is fighting a hard battle. You realize that the person you are judging is suffering just like you. This realization changes everything. The sharp blade of criticism transforms into the soft water of empathy. You start to see the world through the eyes of understanding. You realize that speaking ill of someone is like striking a mirror. You only end up breaking the glass and cutting your own hands. But what happens to the anger that is already trapped inside? What happens when we swallow our harsh words, but the bitter feelings remain in our chest? Resentment is a very heavy element. It does not simply disappear because we close our mouths. It sinks deep into our bones. It creates a highly toxic environment inside your own body. What happens when this hidden poison starts to destroy you from the inside out? What happens when this hidden poison starts to destroy you from the inside out? We often think that silence is entirely enough. We believe that if we just bite our tongue, we are practicing good karma. We hold the harsh words inside. We smile politely on the outside. But inside our minds, a violent storm is raging. We are silently screaming. We are silently judging. We are mentally tearing the other person apart. This internal shouting is just as dangerous as spoken words. The mind is the absolute master of the body. When you hold deep resentment in your heart, your physical body reacts instantly. Your muscles become very tight. Your breath becomes shallow. Your heart beats much faster. Your blood pressure rises. You are constantly in a rigid state of war. But the war is entirely inside your own chest. There is an ancient and profound saying. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. This is the ultimate delusion of the human mind. We truly think our anger is punishing our enemy. We think our silent resentment is teaching them a powerful lesson. But your enemy is probably sleeping very peacefully at night. Your enemy is enjoying their meals. Your enemy is walking freely in the warm sunshine. Meanwhile, you are tossing and turning in your bed. You are sweating in the dark. You cannot taste your food. You are completely miserable. You have locked yourself in a dark prison. And you have willingly swallowed the only key. Let us explore a story about a very talented sculptor. He lived in a large and prosperous city. He carved magnificent statues out of pure white marble. People loved his delicate and brilliant work. He had a close childhood friend. This friend was also a sculptor. But the friend carved his art entirely in dark wood. One year, the king announced a grand artistic competition. The winner would carve the central statue for the new royal garden. Both friends entered the great competition. The friend who carved wood won the grand prize. The king chose the warmth of the dark wood over the cold white marble. The marble sculptor felt a deep and piercing betrayal. He felt his friend had somehow stolen his rightful glory. He was much too proud to speak ill of his friend in public. He forced a smile and congratulated him. But inside, a dark seed of pure hatred took root. He decided he would never forget this terrible insult. He wanted to keep the sharp memory of the betrayal alive. So he found a heavy, jagged black stone. He placed this stone inside a thick leather bag. He tied the bag securely to his waist. He promised himself he would carry this stone every single day. It would be his silent fuel. It would constantly drive him to work harder. Months passed by quickly. The sculptor worked intensely. Every time he heard a customer praise his friend, he found another small rock. He added it strictly to his leather bag. Every time he felt ignored by the royal court, he added another rock. Every time he felt a pang of jealousy, a new stone went in. The bag grew heavier and heavier. Slowly, his strong posture began to change. He had to bend forward to support the terrible weight. His shoulders ached constantly. His breathing became labored and heavy. But the worst change happened in his skilled hands. The heavy weight around his waist restricted his vital blood flow. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. When he picked up his fine chisel, he could no longer make delicate cuts. His beautiful white marble statues became clumsy and rough. He ruined block after block of expensive stone. Customers stopped coming to his quiet shop. One cold evening, he collapsed on the dusty floor of his studio. He could barely breathe. He was in terrible, blinding pain. An old physician was urgently called to examine him. The physician looked at his pale face. The physician looked at his trembling hands. Then the physician pointed directly to the heavy leather bag tied around his waist. The physician asked why he was carrying a bag of useless rocks. The sculptor cried out in pain. He said these rocks were his painful memories. These rocks were the terrible injustices he had suffered. He said he could not put them down until his friend was finally punished by heaven. The physician shook his head with deep and profound pity. He told the sculptor a very harsh truth. The physician said, "Heaven is not punishing your friend. Heaven is simply watching you punish yourself. Your friend is carving beautiful wood across town. He is very happy. He is very healthy. He does not feel the weight of these rocks at all. You are the only one being crushed. You are destroying your own art. You are breaking your own body. The poison is entirely yours." The sculptor lay on the cold stone floor. He suddenly saw the complete madness of his actions. He reached down with his trembling fingers. He untied the thick leather knot. He pushed the heavy bag of rocks away. In that exact moment, a rush of warm blood returned to his arms. His chest expanded widely. He took his first deep breath in many months. He wept with pure, unburdened relief. This is exactly what resentment does to our delicate spirit. Every time you refuse to forgive someone, you are putting a heavy rock in your pocket. Every time you replay a bitter memory, you are adding another jagged stone. You drag this massive weight absolutely everywhere you go. You bring it into your new relationships. You bring it into your workplace. You bring it into your quiet moments of prayer. You become completely exhausted. You wonder why your life feels so incredibly hard. You wonder why you have absolutely no energy for simple joy. It is simply because all your energy is being used to carry the heavy stones of the past. To heal from this, we must understand the true nature of forgiveness. Many people completely misunderstand forgiveness. They think forgiving someone means agreeing with their bad behavior. They think it means becoming friends with the person who deeply hurt them. This is not true at all. Forgiveness is a completely selfish act in the most beautiful way possible. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is entirely for you. It is the conscious decision to put down the heavy bag of rocks. It is the brave choice to stop drinking deadly poison. You do not need the other person to apologize. You do not need them to change their ways. You just need to stop carrying their mistakes on your own tired shoulders. When someone treats you badly, they are acting out of their own deep ignorance. They are creating their own dark karma. Why should you let their dark karma pollute your pure mind? Why should you allow their sad mistake to ruin your physical health? When you hold on to anger, you become a permanent prisoner to the person who hurt you. You give them free space inside your own head. You must reclaim your sacred mental space. You must gently evict the bitter memories. When an angry thought arises, look at it very carefully. Say to it, I see you, but I do not need you anymore. I choose deep peace over being right. I choose vibrant health over holding a heavy grudge. Releasing this internal poison is the first great step to true freedom. It cleanses the physical body. It restores the bright light in your tired eyes. But as we clear our internal world, we must also understand the external laws of the vast universe. The energy we have already released into the world does not simply vanish. It travels far. It reflects off the walls of the universe. Everything we have sent out is already making its way back to us. We must prepare to face the profound and exact mathematics of karma. What exactly happens when our spoken words return to strike us? What exactly happens when our spoken words return to strike us? The universe is a completely closed system. Nothing is ever lost. No energy ever truly disappears. It only transforms and moves in a massive circle. When you speak a word, you are sending a specific wave of energy into the world. You might think the journey of that word ends when it reaches the ear of the listener. But that is only the beginning of its long travel. The law of cause and effect is not a punishing force. It is not an angry judge sitting in the sky. It is simply a mirror of perfect mathematics. It is the absolute rule of balance in nature. Whatever you push outward must eventually swing back inward. This is the profound echo of karma. Let us look at a story about a young traveler. He lived in a noisy and crowded city. He was deeply frustrated with his life. He felt that everyone was treating him poorly. One day, he decided to walk away from the city. He traveled far into a wild mountain range. He discovered a massive and ancient stone canyon. The walls of the canyon were incredibly high. The valley below was deep and completely silent. The young man stood at the very edge of the cliff. He remembered the people who had wronged him. He felt a huge wave of bitter anger rise in his chest. He leaned forward and shouted a terrible insult into the empty space. He yelled that people were cruel and selfish. He screamed that the world was full of blind fools. He waited for a moment of peace. But a few seconds later, a loud and booming voice shouted back at him. The voice called him cruel and selfish. The voice called him a blind fool. The young man was completely shocked. He looked around wildly. He thought bandits were hiding in the rocky caves. He thought dangerous enemies were mocking him from the shadows. His fear quickly turned into boiling rage. He shouted a violent threat into the deep canyon. He promised to hunt down the hidden voices. The canyon did not hesitate. The invisible voices immediately shouted the exact same violent threat back to him. The sound multiplied. It bounced from rock to rock. It sounded like an entire army of angry men shouting directly at his face. The young man was terrified. He picked up heavy stones and threw them into the dark valley. He cursed the mountain. He cursed the invisible demons. He yelled until his throat was bleeding. But the harder he fought, the louder the terrible voices became. He finally fell to his knees in total exhaustion. He covered his ears and ran away from the canyon as fast as he could. He ran down the mountain trail and found a small wooden hut. An old and peaceful hermit lived there. The young man banged on the door. He told the hermit about the terrifying demons living in the high canyon. He said the mountain was cursed with evil spirits who wanted to destroy him. The old hermit poured him a cup of warm water. The hermit smiled very gently. He listened to the whole frantic story. Then the hermit spoke with a very soft and soothing voice. He told the young man that there were no demons in the mountain. There were no hidden enemies. The canyon was completely empty. The hermit explained that the canyon was just a perfect mirror of sound. The massive stone walls only reflected the exact energy that was given to them. The canyon had no voice of its own. It borrowed the voice of the young man. The terrifying army of angry men was just his own hatred bouncing back to his own ears. The young man refused to believe it. The hermit challenged him to go back the next morning. But the hermit gave him a very strict condition. The young man was not allowed to bring any anger. He must stand at the edge and shout words of absolute praise. He must offer a beautiful blessing to the empty space. The young man returned to the cliff the next day. He was very nervous. He took a deep breath. He shouted a wish for deep peace and radiant joy. He waited. A few seconds later, the canyon shouted back. A massive chorus of voices wished him deep peace and radiant joy. He shouted that the world is a beautiful place. The canyon returned 1,000 voices agreeing that the world is a beautiful place. He fell to his knees again. But this time, he wept with profound understanding. He realized that the world had always been exactly like this canyon. The people in his noisy city were just echoing his own internal bitterness. He had been fighting his own reflection his entire life. This story reveals the exact mechanics of our speech. When you speak ill of others, you are standing at the edge of the cosmic canyon. You are shouting insults into the fabric of time. The universe absorbs your words. It carries them for a while. Then it perfectly reflects them back into your own life. Sometimes the echo returns immediately. You insult someone, and they immediately insult you back. But often, the law of karma takes a much longer route. The universe has a perfect and infallible memory. You might spread a vicious rumor about a coworker today. You completely forget about it by next month. 10 years pass. You move to a new city. You start a new job. Suddenly, someone starts a terrible lie about you. The lie destroys your reputation. You lose your job. You cry and ask the heavens why this is happening. You feel like a completely innocent victim. You believe the world is terribly unjust. But there is no injustice. The universe is simply delivering a 10-year-old echo. The stone you threw a decade ago has finally fallen back onto your own roof. This is why we must never act with careless cruelty. We must remember that every single word is a boomerang. It will return to our hands. But what should you do when a painful echo finally returns? What should you do when you are being attacked by false words and unfair judgments? Most people make a fatal mistake. They hear the bad echo, and they shout back. They try to defend themselves with more anger. They try to destroy the person who is spreading the lies. This only creates a louder and more violent echo. You are just throwing more rocks into the canyon. The noise will never stop. The only way to stop a returning echo is to absorb it with absolute silence. When the painful words arrive, you must become a soft sponge, not a hard wall. You must listen to the unfair criticism and stay completely calm. You must realize that this is just old karma leaving your spiritual bank account. Your old debts are finally being paid. You should actually feel a sense of quiet relief. The storm is passing. If you do not react, the negative energy simply runs out of fuel. The echo fades into nothingness. You have successfully broken the chain of cause and effect. You are free from that specific cycle of suffering. This requires immense spiritual strength. It is easy to be kind to those who praise you. It takes a true master of the mind to stay silent when being unfairly attacked. But we must face a much more complex illusion. We must look at a trap that catches even the most intelligent and well-meaning people. What happens when we are absolutely certain that our harsh words are justified? What if we are not angry, but we are simply speaking the truth? We look at someone who is clearly doing bad things. We judge them. We expose their flaws. We feel completely righteous in our criticism. We believe we are protecting the world by speaking ill of a bad person. Does being right protect us from the law of karma? Is it truly safe to criticize others if we hold the ultimate truth in our hands? Is it truly safe to criticize others if we hold the ultimate truth in our hands? The answer is a profound and absolute no. This is one of the most dangerous traps in human psychology. It is the trap of being right. We often believe that facts give us the ultimate permission to be cruel. We see someone make a terrible mistake. We see them act with clear greed. We see them lie. We look at their actions and we feel a surge of pure justice. We tell ourselves that exposing them is our moral duty. We gather our friends and we speak harshly about the wrongdoer. We dissect their bad behavior. We feel very tall. We feel very pure. We think our harsh words are justified because they are completely factual. But the law of cause and effect does not only measure the factual accuracy of your words. It measures the absolute temperature of your heart. Truth without compassion is not a medicine. It is a very sharp sword. You can forge a sword out of pure gold. The gold might represent the absolute truth. But a sword of gold will still cut through flesh. It will still cause people to bleed. It will still leave a permanent scar. When you use the truth to humiliate someone, you are no longer a teacher. You become an executioner. Let us look at a story about a very strict town elder. He lived in a prosperous valley surrounded by high walls. This elder was famous for his flawless memory. He knew every single rule. He never broke a single law in his entire life. His clothes were always perfectly clean. His posture was always completely straight. He believed his absolute purity gave him the right to judge everyone else. One cold morning, a poor farmer made a foolish mistake. The farmer was desperate and stole a small bag of grain from the market. The strict elder caught him immediately. The elder did not ask why the farmer stole. He did not ask if the family of the farmer was hungry. He only saw the broken rule. The elder dragged the farmer to the center of the town square. He gathered all the villagers. He used his loud and powerful voice. He spoke nothing but the absolute truth. He detailed the exact time of the theft. He described the exact weight of the stolen grain. He called the farmer a thief. He called the farmer a disgrace to the village. Every word the elder spoke was completely factual. He did not invent a single lie. The villagers listened and nodded. They agreed with the strict elder. The poor farmer collapsed on the ground in total shame. His reputation was completely destroyed. He could never look at his neighbors again. He eventually left the valley in deep disgrace. The strict elder felt a massive surge of pride. He believed he had protected the town. He believed he had done the work of heaven. But something very dark began to happen in the valley. The town did not become more virtuous. The town simply became a place of absolute terror. People stopped talking to each other. Neighbors started watching each other with deep suspicion. Everyone was terrified of making a small mistake. Everyone was terrified of the sharp tongue of the elder. The warmth of the community completely died. Years passed. The strict elder grew very old. He lay on his deathbed in a large and completely empty house. None of the villagers came to hold his hand. None of the villagers brought him warm soup. They respected his rules, but they absolutely hated his cruel heart. He had spent his entire life being perfectly right. But he died completely alone. He died surrounded by the freezing cold energy he had created. This is the tragic illusion of moral superiority. When we judge someone from a high place, we create a massive wall of ice. We think we are fixing a problem. But we are actually destroying the very fabric of human connection. The law of karma is deeply exact. The negative energy of pride and arrogance is much heavier than a simple mistake. When you look at a wrongdoer with total disgust, you create dark karma for yourself. The universe sees your pride. The universe sees your lack of basic empathy. The universe records the hidden joy you feel when you crush someone with the truth. This hidden joy is a very potent poison. It slowly hardens your heart. It turns your spirit into solid stone. True spiritual maturity requires a massive shift in perspective. A truly wise person sees a thief and does not feel anger. A wise person feels profound sadness. They understand that stealing comes from deep fear. They understand that bad behavior is just a desperate cry for help. A wise person does not need to announce the flaws of others to the whole world. If you truly want to help someone who is doing wrong, you do not publicly shame them. You do not gossip about their failures. You approach them privately. You speak softly. You offer them a clear path to fix their mistake. You give them a chance to keep their dignity. This is how you use the truth to heal. The truth must always be wrapped in a thick blanket of pure love. If you cannot speak the truth with deep love, it is much better to remain completely silent. We must constantly check the deep intention behind our words. Are you speaking about a problem to find a gentle solution? Or are you speaking to make yourself look incredibly smart? Are you pointing out a flaw to help someone grow? Or are you trying to prove that you are much better than them? The mind is very tricky. It will always try to convince you that you are a righteous hero. Do not fall into this sweet trap. Do not let your intelligence make you cruel. A brilliant mind with a cold heart is a terrible danger to the world. We must strive to be kind before we strive to be right. Kindness is the highest form of absolute wisdom. When you choose kindness over judgment, you instantly dissolve heavy karma. You elevate the entire vibration of your life. But this journey of purifying our speech goes far beyond the words we actively say. We can learn to control our own tongue perfectly. We can stop shouting into the cosmic canyon. We can stop using the truth as a sharp weapon. But we do not live entirely alone. We live in a world filled with other voices. What happens when we are not the one speaking? What happens when we are just sitting quietly in a room? Someone else walks in and starts sharing a vicious rumor. Someone else starts criticizing a person who is not there. We do not say a single bad word. We just sit there and listen. We nod our heads politely. We smile because we do not want to create conflict. We think we are completely innocent because our lips remained closed. Does this polite silence protect us from the heavy burden of negative karma? Or are we quietly walking into a completely different kind of danger? Are we quietly walking into a completely different kind of danger? The answer is a very serious yes. Polite silence is often a hidden trap. We call this the trap of the silent accomplice. Many of us believe that karma is only created by active motion. We think that if our mouth is closed, our karma is perfectly clean. But karma is first created by the mind. It is created by our attention. It is created by our willing presence. When you sit quietly and listen to malicious gossip, you are not truly neutral. You are offering your precious energy to the speaker. You are giving them a stage. You are giving them an audience. Gossip cannot survive in total isolation. A fire needs fresh oxygen to burn. A gossiper absolutely needs a willing ear to keep speaking. When you provide that ear, you become the oxygen for their destructive fire. Let us look at a story about two fishermen. They lived near a wide and beautiful river. The first fisherman was very aggressive. He used toxic bait to catch fish. This toxic bait polluted the clear water. It made the fish very sick. The second fisherman was a very peaceful man. He never used toxic bait. He never even held a long fishing rod. He simply sat on the riverbank and held a large wooden basket for his friend. The aggressive fisherman caught the sick fish. He tossed them straight into the wooden basket. The peaceful fisherman just smiled politely. He watched the heavy basket fill up. He thought he was completely innocent. He believed his hands were entirely clean because he never touched the terrible poison. But when they took the fish to the village market, the village guards stopped them both. The guards carefully examined the toxic fish. The guards arrested the aggressive fisherman for polluting the sacred river. Then the guards turned and arrested the peaceful fisherman too. The peaceful fisherman cried out in total shock. He said he did absolutely nothing wrong. He said he was just sitting quietly by the water. The head guard looked at him with very strict eyes. The head guard spoke with a firm voice. The head guard said, "You provided the basket. You held the container for the poison. Without your empty basket, he could not have caught so many fish. You are completely guilty of sharing this dark harvest." This simple story illustrates a very profound spiritual truth. When someone comes to you with toxic gossip, they are using poisonous bait. When you sit and listen, your mind becomes that empty wooden basket. You are actively collecting their toxic harvest. You are sharing their heavy karmic debt. Every time you nod your head to a vicious rumor, you sign a silent contract. You agree to carry a portion of their dark energy. Your polite smile is a clear stamp of approval. The universe records this exact transaction perfectly. You did not throw the sharp stone. But you gladly helped to hide the broken glass. This passive agreement damages your spirit in very subtle ways. When you listen to bad words, those words enter your open ears. They travel straight to your quiet brain. They plant negative and ugly images in your pure consciousness. Even if you never repeat the rumor, your view of the victim is forever changed. The next time you see the victim, you will remember those ugly words. Your heart will suddenly feel a little colder toward them. You will look at them with a shadow of doubt. You have allowed someone else to paint thick dirt onto your pure and clean window. This is a terrible violation of your inner peace. We often listen because we are deeply afraid of being rude. We do not want to offend the angry gossiper. We desperately want to be liked by everyone in the room. But this is a terrible and costly trade. You are trading your sacred inner peace for cheap social approval. You are sacrificing your pure karma just to avoid a brief awkward moment. You leave the room feeling completely drained. Your shoulders feel heavy. Your mind feels agitated and restless. This is because you just absorbed a massive amount of toxic energy. You became a dumping ground for the bitterness of someone else. We must develop the profound courage to protect our own mind. Protecting your mind is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of supreme self-care. You guard your physical house from dangerous thieves. You lock your heavy doors every single night. You must learn to lock the doors of your mind in the exact same way. You must stop letting people dump their mental garbage into your beautiful living room. How do we practice this safely in daily life? You do not need to shout at the gossiper. You do not need to give them a long and angry lecture. Remember that speaking harshly to them creates more bad karma for you. You only need to practice the gentle art of walking away. When the conversation turns dark, you can simply change the subject. You can gently bring up something beautiful. You can mention a positive trait about the person being judged. If the gossiper refuses to stop, you have the absolute right to leave the room. You can quietly stand up. You can say you need a glass of cool water. You can step outside to look at the open sky. Your physical absence will send a very powerful message. The gossiper will suddenly feel the emptiness of the room. They will lose their oxygen. The fire of their bad words will quickly die out. This is a profound act of deep compassion. You are not only protecting yourself. You are gently stopping them from creating more heavy karma. It takes immense time to build this quiet strength. You will definitely face uncomfortable moments. Some people might call you strange. Some people might stop inviting you to their idol gatherings. But this is a massive blessing in disguise. You are clearing your life of toxic energy. You are making room for friends who speak with genuine love. Your silence should never be a basket for poison. Your silence should be a massive wall of peace. But let us look even deeper into the invisible realm. Let us observe the actual connection between the person speaking and the person they are judging. When someone constantly criticizes an enemy, they think they are pushing that enemy far away. They think their harsh words create a safe and permanent distance. This is a massive illusion. In the realm of energy, hatred does not separate people. Hatred binds them tightly together. Hatred creates thick and heavy chains in the unseen world. What exactly are these dark chains of energy? Why do we become deeply bound to the exact people we despise the most? Why do we become deeply bound to the exact people we despise the most? We often believe that love is the only force that connects human beings. We think that deep affection brings us closer together. We think that kindness is the only strong bond. This is only half of the truth. Hatred is also a massive and powerful glue. It is a very thick rope. When you constantly speak ill of someone, you are forging a heavy iron chain. You tie one end of this chain directly to your enemy. You tie the exact same chain securely around your own neck. You want your enemy to disappear completely. You want them to fail in their life. You speak bad words to push them far away from you. But the exact opposite happens in the realm of energy. Your mind becomes completely obsessed with them. You wake up early in the morning thinking about their flaws. You eat your warm meals while replaying their past mistakes. You go to sleep having violent arguments with them in your head. They are not physically standing inside your house. But they are living completely free inside your mind. You have made them the absolute center of your entire universe. You have given them supreme control over your daily emotions. Let us look at a story of a famous blacksmith. He lived near a very busy trading route. He made the sharpest and strongest swords in the whole kingdom. A new blacksmith suddenly arrived in the town. The new man was very young and incredibly skilled. The first blacksmith felt deeply threatened by this new arrival. He decided to completely destroy the young man with his words. The older blacksmith stopped focusing on his own hot fire. He stopped paying attention to his own heavy anvil. He spent all day watching his rival from across the street. He stopped every passing traveler. He whispered that the new swords were terribly weak. He lied and said the young blacksmith used cheap and broken iron. He claimed the young man was a complete fraud. The older blacksmith talked about his rival every single day. He talked about him at the breakfast table. He talked about him during the quiet evening dinner. His poor wife grew extremely tired of hearing the same name. His children stopped listening to his angry voice. The first blacksmith thought he was winning a great and noble war. But he was actually losing his own mind. He started having vivid and terrifying dreams about his rival. He saw the face of the young man absolutely everywhere. One day the older blacksmith was hammering a very hot piece of heavy steel. His mind was entirely focused on his deep hatred. He was not looking at the glowing metal. He imagined he was striking the head of his rival. He swung his heavy iron hammer with complete blind rage. He completely missed the hot steel. The heavy hammer struck his own hand with massive force. He instantly shattered his own bones. The pain was completely blinding. He could never hold a heavy tool again. He could never forge another beautiful sword. His glorious career ended in a single moment of blind hatred. The young blacksmith never touched him. The young blacksmith never spoke a single bad word about him. The older blacksmith destroyed his own physical hand. He did it because he was completely chained to his own dark anger. He was a permanent prisoner of his own sharp tongue. This is the profound and terrible danger of negative speech. When you speak bad words about an enemy, you freely give them your precious life force. You spend your valuable time analyzing their daily behavior. You spend your vital energy trying to convince other people they are bad. You become a permanent and exhausted servant to your own anger. The universe operates purely on the law of focus. Whatever you give your supreme attention to will rapidly multiply in your life. If you focus deeply on peace, your peace will grow like a beautiful tree. If you focus constantly on a person you hate, that person will completely consume your spirit. The dark energy of gossip binds you directly to their karma. You become energetically entangled with their life path. You share a massive and heavy dark cloud. You can never fly high into the bright sky while tied to this heavy anchor. Every single insult you whisper adds another heavy link to the iron chain. You might think you are punishing them by ruining their reputation. But they might be completely unaware of your dark words. They might be living a very happy and peaceful life. While they are smiling in the warm sun, you are suffocating in the dark. You are drinking poison every day to keep the connection alive. How do we break this heavy iron chain? You cannot break it with more anger. You cannot break it by shouting louder than your enemy. You cannot cut it with a sharp knife of revenge. You can only dissolve this chain with absolute silence. You can only melt this heavy iron with total unconcern. You must completely withdraw your vital attention. You must make a firm vow to stop speaking their name. You must treat them like a passing cloud in the wide sky. You acknowledge the dark cloud is there. You see it clearly. But you do not try to fight the cloud. You do not shout at the cloud. You simply sit quietly and let it float away. When you stop speaking ill of them, the iron chain begins to rust. The dark connection becomes very weak. Eventually the chain snaps entirely and falls away. You finally reclaim your own peaceful mind. You finally regain your lost and precious energy. You can breathe deeply again. But we must realize that our dark words have already traveled far into the world. The chain binding us might be broken, but the ripples of our speech continue to move. We must look at the massive damage our words cause to people we never even intended to hurt. What happens when the dark energy of our gossip spills over the edges? How do our harsh words affect innocent families and destroy entire peaceful communities? How do our harsh words affect innocent families and destroy entire peaceful communities? We rarely pause to think about the invisible web that connects all living beings. We see the world as a collection of separate individuals. We believe that attacking one person only affects that one person. This is a massive failure of spiritual vision. The universe is woven together like a giant fishing net. If you pull on one single thread, the entire massive net shakes. When you throw a heavy stone into a quiet pond, you see a big splash. You watch the water jump up into the air. You think the action is over. But the true impact of the stone is completely invisible. The ripples move quickly under the surface. They travel all the way to the distant shore. They disturb the quiet frogs hiding in the green reeds. They muddy the clear water for the small fish. The ripples touch lives that never even saw the stone falling. Your words act in the exact same way. Let us look at a story about a very kind village teacher. He lived in a remote and peaceful valley. He dedicated his entire life to teaching the village children. He taught them how to read ancient books. He taught them how to count numbers. Most importantly, he taught them how to be good and honest people. The children loved him deeply. The village was growing wiser every single year. There was a wealthy landowner in this same village. The landowner wanted to buy the small piece of land where the school was built. He wanted to build a large warehouse to store his goods. The teacher politely refused to sell the land. He said the school belonged to the children. The wealthy landowner was deeply offended by this quiet refusal. He decided to completely destroy the reputation of the humble teacher. The landowner did not use any physical violence. He used the sharp weapon of casual gossip. He started whispering to the parents in the busy village market. He said the teacher was teaching the children very bad habits. He claimed the teacher was secretly stealing the small donations given to the school. He spoke these terrible lies with a very serious and concerned face. He acted like he was merely trying to protect the village. The poison spread incredibly fast. The parents became deeply suspicious. They stopped sending their children to the little school. The teacher was completely heartbroken. He closed the heavy wooden doors of the school. He sat entirely alone in his empty classroom. But the damage did not stop with the teacher. The dark ripples of the rumor continued to expand rapidly. The innocent children of the teacher were suddenly shunned by their friends. When they walked through the village market, people stared at them with cold and angry eyes. Other children refused to play with them. The wife of the teacher fell into deep sadness. She stopped smiling completely. She stayed inside her cold house all day long. She could not understand why her gentle family was suddenly treated like dangerous criminals. The warm and happy home became a place of total silence and deep shame. The tragedy expanded even further into the community. Because the school was closed, the village children stopped learning. They spent their days wandering the dusty streets without any guidance. They started fighting with each other over small things. They forgot how to read the beautiful ancient books. They forgot the vital lessons of kindness and basic honesty. The entire village slowly sank into ignorance and loud conflict. 10 long years passed. The wealthy landowner grew very old. He needed someone smart and honest to manage his large estate. He looked around the village for a bright young person. But he could not find a single educated youth. The young people in the village were loud and completely uneducated. They could not count his money properly. They could not read his important contracts. The landowner suddenly realized the massive disaster he had created. He had destroyed the only true teacher in the valley. In his blind anger, he had burned down the future of the entire community. He had stolen the light of wisdom from an entire generation. His own wealth was now completely useless because there was no one trustworthy to help him. He sat in his large empty warehouse. He wept with profound and absolute regret. This is the terrifying reality of the unseen ripples. When you speak ill of someone, you are not just attacking a single human being. You are dropping poison directly into the communal well. You are polluting the drinking water of the entire village. You truly do not know who relies on the person you are actively destroying. Perhaps the person you are gossiping about is a loving and dedicated father. When he loses his job because of your false words, his children go hungry. Perhaps the person you are judging is a kind and gentle mother. When she falls into deep depression from your cruel whispers, her innocent babies lose her warm smile. You become completely responsible for the bitter tears of people you have never even met. This is what we call collective karma. We share the heavy burden of tearing apart a community. A community is built entirely on basic human trust. Trust is the invisible glue that holds humanity together safely. Gossip is the exact toxic acid that dissolves this precious glue. When people start speaking badly about each other, they completely destroy the firm foundation of the town. They build invisible walls of deep fear. No one feels safe anymore. Everyone constantly wonders what is being said behind their own back. We must awaken rapidly to this immense responsibility. We are not isolated islands floating in a vast and empty ocean. We are completely and deeply connected. Your breath affects my breath. Your words shape my entire world. We must stop viewing our daily speech as a harmless personal habit. It is a massive and powerful force that shapes the destiny of entire families. Think deeply about the dark rumors you have casually repeated in your life. Did you ever stop to ask about the family of the victim? Did you ever truly consider the massive chain reaction of your simple words? You might have thought it was just a funny joke. You might have thought it was an interesting story to share. But those specific words might have broken a warm home forever. They might have sent an innocent person into deep despair. If we truly want to live in a peaceful world, we must become absolute guardians of our speech. We must completely refuse to spread the dark ripples. When a cruel rumor comes to your ear, you must let it die right there. You must become a deep and completely quiet lake. When the heavy stone of gossip falls into your water, you simply swallow it. You do not send the ripples back out. You absorb the sharp shock and you return to absolute stillness. You must actively create beautiful ripples of light instead. When you speak well of someone, you are throwing a stone of pure gold into the water. The ripples of praise travel very far and extremely wide. They reach the family of the person. They reach their tired friends. They instantly elevate the spirit of the entire community. One single kind word has the magnificent power to heal a broken town. But the path of gossip does not only destroy the world outside. While the ripples are breaking families and dividing towns, what is happening exactly inside the mind of the gossiper? We have looked at the massive external damage. We must now turn our full attention to the deep internal suffering. How does this dark habit steal the most precious thing a human being can possess? Why does a person who constantly speaks ill of others lose all their spiritual tranquility? Why can they never find a single moment of true and lasting rest? Let us explore the profound restlessness that forever haunts a critical mind. Have you ever looked closely at the eyes of someone who constantly criticizes others? You will notice a deep and unsettling truth. Their eyes are never truly calm. They dart around the room constantly. They are always searching for the next flaw. They are always scanning the horizon for the next mistake. This is the ultimate punishment for speaking ill of others. You completely lose your inner peace. The critical mind becomes a very dark and noisy prison. We often think that judging others makes us powerful. We think it gives us complete control over our environment. But it actually turns us into exhausted slaves. When your mind is trained to look for dirt, it will find dirt absolutely everywhere. It will find dirt in your friends. It will find dirt in your family. It will eventually find dirt in your own soul. You become entirely unable to rest. Let us look at a story about a master musician. He played the bamboo flute beautifully. He lived in a grand city filled with art and music. In his early years, he played for the pure joy of the sound. He closed his eyes and let the music flow from his heart. Everyone loved his completely peaceful melodies. But as he grew older, he became extremely proud of his flawless technique. He stopped playing for joy. He started listening to other musicians only to find their mistakes. He would sit in the front row of every grand concert. He did not go to enjoy the beautiful music. He went with a very sharp and critical mind. Whenever a young musician missed a single note, the master would smile a cold smile. He would loudly whisper about the mistake to the people sitting next to him. Listen to that terrible sound. They have completely ruined the entire song. He would completely ruin the experience for everyone around him. He became famous for his harsh and cruel judgments. One evening, a wandering monk came to the grand city. The monk brought a very old and simple wooden harp. The monk invited the entire city to a special healing concert in the central square. Thousands of people gathered under the bright stars. The monk began to play. The music was not technically perfect, but it was filled with immense and boundless compassion. It was the pure sound of a deeply awakened heart. The music washed over the large crowd like a warm river. Sick people felt their pain slowly fade away. Sad people felt bright tears of joy falling down their cheeks. Everyone was completely captivated by the divine sound. Everyone except the proud master musician. He sat perfectly still in the front row. His face was tight and deeply angry. He completely ignored the beautiful feeling in the air. He was entirely obsessed with finding a technical flaw. He counted the exact timing of every single string. He strained his ears to catch a slightly flat note. He spent the entire beautiful evening totally trapped in his own critical mind. When the concert ended, the massive crowd stood up in silent awe. They felt completely reborn. The master musician stood up and immediately started complaining. He shouted, "The rhythm was slightly wrong in the third song. The wooden harp is completely out of tune." The peaceful crowd just looked at him with deep pity. They walked away and left him entirely alone in the empty square. That night, the master musician went back to his large house. He picked up his own perfect bamboo flute. He tried to play a beautiful melody. But his fingers were very stiff. His mind was completely filled with the mistakes he had counted. He could only hear harsh and ugly sounds. The beautiful music had completely abandoned his soul. He developed a terrible and pounding headache. He never slept peacefully again. He went completely mad from the constant noise inside his own head. This is the exact tragedy of the critical mind. When you train your brain to only see flaws, you completely destroy your ability to experience beauty. You become completely blind to the miracles happening right in front of you. A person who constantly gossips can walk into a magnificent garden and only see the dead leaves on the ground. They will completely miss the vibrant blooming roses. They will completely miss the sweet fragrance in the warm air. They will look at a beautiful painting and only see a tiny scratch on the wooden frame. They will eat a wonderful meal cooked with deep love and only complain that the soup is slightly cold. Their entire existence becomes a continuous search for disappointment. They are actively hunting for reasons to be unhappy. This is a highly exhausting way to live. Your nervous system is constantly on high alert. You are always preparing for an argument. You are always building a mental defense against the world. You trust absolutely no one. You think everyone is hiding a terrible secret. You think everyone is waiting to betray you at any moment. This deep paranoia is the direct karmic result of your own harsh words. Because you speak badly about others behind their backs, you naturally assume they are doing the exact same thing to you. You project your own dark behavior onto the entire human race. When people smile at you, you think they are completely fake. When people offer you genuine help, you suspect a hidden trap. Your own malicious words create a massive wall of thick ice around your heart. You become completely isolated in a world of your own making. You cannot buy inner peace with gold. You cannot build a wall high enough to keep out your own troubled thoughts. Spiritual peace requires total surrender. It requires you to gently put down the heavy magnifying glass. You must stop inspecting every single action of your neighbors. You must realize that human beings are naturally flawed. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone says foolish things sometimes. Including you. When you truly accept this simple fact, a massive weight lifts off your tired shoulders. You do not need to fix everyone around you. You do not need to judge everyone crossing your path. You can simply let people be exactly who they are. This deep acceptance is the absolute key to inner tranquility. Imagine waking up in the crisp morning without a single grievance. Imagine walking through your entire day without judging a single soul. Your mind would be as clear as a calm mountain lake. You would have massive amounts of pure energy to create beautiful things. You would treat your family with absolute patience. You would sleep deeply and peacefully every single night. This bright reality is completely available to you right now. It does not require a special ritual. It does not require a journey to a distant mountain. It only requires a firm decision to change your daily habits. You must be completely willing to drop the sharp knife of criticism. You must realize that every harsh word you speak is a direct attack on your own peace of mind. You are the one who suffers the most from your own gossip. The gossip does not make you superior in any way. It makes you spiritually bankrupt. Every time you open your mouth to judge someone, you are spending your most precious internal currency. We spend our entire lives trying to accumulate good karma. We do charity for the poor. We help our families unconditionally. We pray sincerely in the quiet mornings. But all of these beautiful actions create a delicate spiritual fortune. What happens when we mix this pure fortune with the toxic habit of speaking ill of others? We must look at the terrible mathematics of spiritual bankruptcy. We must see exactly how our careless speech silently drains our hard-earned merits, leaving us completely empty. We must look at the terrible mathematics of spiritual bankruptcy. We spend our entire lives trying to accumulate good karma. We do charity for the poor. We help our families unconditionally. We pray sincerely in the quiet mornings. We believe we are building a massive mountain of good fortune. But we often ignore a tiny hole at the bottom of our container. This tiny hole is our careless speech. Imagine a hard-working farmer. He wakes up before the sun rises. He walks many miles to a clear mountain spring. He fills his heavy wooden bucket with pure and fresh water. He walks all the way back to his thirsty crops. But there is a hidden crack at the bottom of his bucket. Drop by drop, the precious water leaks out onto the dusty road. By the time he reaches his dry field, the bucket is completely empty. His crops wither and die in the hot sun. He cries and blames the cruel heavens. He worked so hard. But he completely failed to fix the leak. Our spiritual life works in the exact same way. You can spend 10 long years building beautiful merits. You can donate food to the hungry. You can build strong shelters for the homeless. But if you constantly speak ill of others, you are walking with a broken bucket. Every harsh word is a drop of pure water falling into the dust. Every cruel joke is a massive leak in your spiritual container. Let us look at a story about a very generous woman. She lived in a large and wealthy town. She was famous for her grand acts of charity. Every single month, she bought massive amounts of fresh rice. She invited all the poor people to her wide courtyard. She fed them until they were completely full. People praised her great generosity constantly. They called her a living saint of the town. But this wealthy woman had a very dark and hidden habit. She loved to gossip about the very people she helped. After the poor people left her house, she would sit with her wealthy friends. She would openly mock the worn-out clothes of the beggars. She would laugh loudly at their terrible manners. She would harshly criticize the way they ate their food. She said they were poor because they were completely lazy and foolish. She truly believed her vast wealth protected her karma. She thought a large bag of rice was much heavier than a few whispered words. She thought her grand charity completely erased the poison of her sharp tongue. She was completely wrong. Years passed quickly. A terrible and sudden famine struck the entire region. Her large business completely failed. She lost all her beautiful houses. She lost all her fine silk clothes. She found herself standing alone in the cold street. She was completely broke and deeply hungry. She expected the townspeople to rush to help her. She expected the universe to repay her for all those heavy bags of rice. But no one came to her aid. The poor people she once fed remembered her cruel laughter. They remembered the deep humiliation they felt while eating her food. They knew her charity was completely empty of genuine love. Her hands gave the rice, but her tongue revealed her true heart. The universe did not owe her a single thing. Her spiritual bank account was completely overdrawn. She had spent all her merits on the toxic thrill of feeling superior. This is the true and terrifying cost of a sharp tongue. Karma is a perfectly exact accounting system. Every single action makes a clear deposit or a clear withdrawal. We often think that only big crimes create bad karma. We think stealing gold is a massive withdrawal. We think hurting someone physically is a massive debt. But we completely underestimate the silent and deadly cost of our daily speech. Because talking is so incredibly easy, we do not notice the high cost. It takes zero physical effort to insult someone. It takes zero money to spread a vicious rumor. Because it feels entirely free, we do it constantly. We make hundreds of tiny spiritual withdrawals every single day. We criticize the slow driver on the road. We judge the cheap clothes of a passing stranger. We complain endlessly about our lazy coworkers. Each of these moments seems completely harmless at the time. But thousands of tiny withdrawals will bankrupt the absolute largest fortune. You are bleeding your precious spiritual energy to death. You are draining your hard-earned virtues for absolutely no reason. You trade your divine blessings for a few seconds of bitter entertainment. This is a deeply tragic exchange. You would never throw your hard-earned gold coins into the dark and freezing ocean. Yet you throw your precious karma away every time you gossip. The beautiful good deeds you do with your warm hands are completely destroyed by the cold words coming out of your mouth. You must seal the crack in your bucket immediately. It is much better to do fewer grand deeds and maintain absolute silence. A person who gives only one small bowl of rice but speaks with total love is truly wealthy. Their small bucket is completely whole. Not a single drop is wasted. The universe blesses them with massive and continuous abundance. If you want your life to be filled with deep blessings, you must completely stop the leak. You must protect your spiritual bank account with absolute and strict vigilance. Do not let your beautiful actions be ruined by an undisciplined mind. You must realize that your daily words are the most expensive currency in the entire world. When you stop speaking ill of others, your pure merits begin to accumulate rapidly. Your inner container fills up quickly. The sweet water of your good deeds finally reaches the deep roots of your own life. You will suddenly see miracles blooming all around you. You will experience a profound and lasting prosperity. Your spirit will become wealthy beyond measure. But stopping this hidden leak requires a massive amount of inner strength. We live in a loud world that constantly encourages harsh opinions. We live in a society that feeds daily on drama and quick judgments. When everyone around you is talking loudly, staying quiet feels completely unnatural. It feels like swimming against a massive and powerful river. How do we find the profound courage required to stop a vicious rumor? How do we stand perfectly still when the entire world is rushing blindly into anger? We must learn the sacred art of keeping the mouth closed and the heart wide open. We must discover the immense and miraculous healing power of simply pausing. Let us look exactly at how we can build this unbreakable strength in our daily lives. Silence is often completely mistaken for weakness. People think that if you do not shout back, you are entirely defeated. They believe that the loudest voice in the room is always the strongest. This is a massive and dangerous illusion. True strength is completely quiet. It takes absolutely zero effort to let your anger explode. It is the easiest thing in the world to strike back with a cruel insult. But it takes immense and profound power to hold a storm inside your own chest and let it gently dissolve into nothingness. When you hear a vicious rumor, your first instinct is to immediately defend yourself. Your ego screams for absolute justice. You desperately want to prove the other person wrong. You want to gather your own supporters and start a loud war of words. But we must remember the terrible cost of this invisible war. We must remember the heavy iron chains we forge when we engage in deep hatred. To break this dark cycle, we must cultivate the courage to remain completely silent. Let us look at a story of a quiet stone mason. He lived in a small village next to a wide and dangerous wild river. Every spring, the river would flood and destroy the fragile wooden boats. The stone mason decided to build a strong bridge for the poor villagers. He worked entirely alone. He worked very slowly. He carefully carved every single heavy stone. He placed them with deep and pure focus. Across the river, a group of arrogant young men decided to build their own wooden bridge. They worked incredibly fast. They wanted to finish first to claim the grand glory. They started to loudly mock the slow stone mason. They shouted terrible insults across the rushing water. They spread vicious rumors in the busy village square. They said the old mason was secretly stealing the village funds. They said he was too old and completely incompetent. The stone mason heard every single cruel word. He felt a sudden burning heat in his chest. The urge to shout back was incredibly strong. He wanted to scream that wooden bridges would never survive the violent spring floods. He wanted to completely humiliate the proud young men in front of everyone. But he stopped. He took a very deep breath. He looked down at his own rough hands. He looked at the solid white stone. He realized that arguing with them would completely drain his precious vital energy. He needed all his physical strength to lift the heavy rocks. If he used his voice to fight a useless war, he would not have the power to build his beautiful bridge. So he chose absolute and total silence. He kept his mouth firmly closed. But he kept his heart completely open. He did not hate the loud young men. He actually felt deep pity for their blinding arrogance. He knew the wild river would eventually teach them a very harsh and unforgettable lesson. He continued to work in total quiet. Months passed quickly. The young men finished their cheap wooden bridge. The villagers cheered loudly for them. The quiet stone mason was entirely ignored. He just kept placing his heavy stones with pure love and total dedication. Then the heavy spring rains finally arrived. The river turned into a violent and raging monster. The dark water crashed violently against the muddy riverbanks. The cheap wooden bridge was instantly destroyed. It shattered into 1,000 useless pieces. The young men stood on the wet bank and wept bitterly. But the heavy stone bridge stood perfectly still. The violent water could not move a single rock. The bridge was completely rooted in deep silence and profound patience. The villagers safely crossed the raging river on the solid stones. They finally understood the true and absolute power of the quiet mason. Your daily words are exactly like those building materials. Gossip and angry reactions are exactly like cheap wood. They are very easy to build in a single afternoon. But they instantly collapse under the heavy pressure of real life. Silence and deep patience are exactly like solid stone. They take immense effort to carefully cultivate. But they will carry you safely through the most violent storms of your life. How do we actually practice this sacred pause in our noisy world? It begins entirely with the physical body. When you hear a malicious rumor, notice exactly what happens inside you. Your stomach becomes very tight. Your breathing becomes extremely shallow. Your jaw locks perfectly shut. This is your frightened nervous system preparing for a bitter war. Do not open your mouth in this tense state. You must train yourself to simply wait. Wait just 5 quiet seconds. Take one deep and fully conscious breath. Feel the cool air entering your nose. Feel the warm air leaving your tired body. This simple breath creates a massive gap in time. It completely breaks the automatic chain of bad karma. In that tiny gap of silence, you reclaim your absolute freedom. You remember your true and pure intention. You remember that you deeply want to be a person of peace. You realize that the anger does not actually belong to you. The anger belongs entirely to the person who spoke the harsh words. You do not need to accept their highly toxic gift. Keeping the mouth closed is only the very first step. You must also keep the heart entirely open. This is the true mark of absolute spiritual genius. Anyone can bite their lip in bitter silence. But if you are silently wishing for the destruction of your enemy, you are still drinking the deadly poison. Your mind is still completely trapped in the dark mud. Imagine a clear glass of pure water. If you drop a handful of dark mud into the water, it becomes completely cloudy. You cannot see through it at all. If you try to remove the mud with your anxious fingers, you only stir it up more. You make the water even dirtier. The harder you fight the heavy mud, the worse it gets. The only way to clean the muddy water is to do absolutely nothing. You must gently set the glass down on a quiet table. You must step back and breathe. If you have the deep patience to wait, the heavy mud will naturally sink to the very bottom. The water will become crystal clear again entirely by itself. Your precious mind is exactly like this glass of water. Gossip and unfair criticism are the dark mud. When people throw their cruel words at you, your mind becomes completely agitated. If you try to fight back immediately, you only stir up the toxic mud. You completely confuse yourself. You entirely lose your pure clarity. The profound courage to stay silent is the brave act of setting the glass down. It is the absolute trust in the natural laws of the massive universe. The pure truth will always reveal itself if you give it enough time. The false words will always sink to the absolute bottom of history. You do not need to constantly defend your own fragile honor. Your quiet and highly consistent actions are your greatest and most powerful defense. You must look at the loud gossiper with eyes of deep understanding. You must see the profound suffering that makes them so cruel. Truly happy people do not spend their precious days tearing others down. Only deeply broken people feel the urgent need to break others. When you truly see their hidden pain, your anger naturally turns into soft and healing compassion. You do not need to agree with their terrible actions. You simply refuse to let their darkness extinguish your bright light. You become a massive and completely quiet mountain. The cold wind can howl. The dark storm can rage. But the mountain does not ever shout back at the wind. The mountain simply stands in perfect and unbreakable dignity. This level of quiet dignity is incredibly magnetic. When people see that you absolutely refuse to engage in cheap gossip, they develop a profound respect for you. They know their personal secrets are completely safe in your gentle presence. You become a rare and beautiful sanctuary of trust in a very noisy and broken world. You become the solid stone bridge for your entire community. When everything else completely falls apart, people will lean heavily on your quiet strength. You will guide them safely over the raging waters of human conflict. But the journey of complete silence brings a new and very difficult challenge to our door. You have learned to beautifully protect your own speech. You have learned to stop spreading the dark and heavy rumors. But what happens exactly when you are the direct target of the deadly poison? What happens when the entire village is speaking completely falsely about you? It is one thing to stay perfectly quiet when others are fighting around you. It is a completely different challenge to remain perfectly peaceful when you are being unjustly crucified in the public square. How do we let deeply false words slide off our skin without leaving any permanent mark? How do we build an impenetrable inner fortress that no vicious rumor can ever penetrate? How do we let deeply false words slide off our skin without leaving any permanent mark? How do we build an impenetrable inner fortress that no vicious rumor can ever penetrate? We must look very closely at the pure nature of a lotus leaf. Have you ever watched a heavy rain falling on a beautiful green lotus leaf in the quiet morning? The water falls very fast and very hard. But it does not soak into the living leaf. The lotus leaf is completely smooth. It has absolutely no rough edges to hold the heavy water. The drops of rain just gather into small round pearls. They roll around the surface for a brief moment. Then they slide completely off the edge. They fall harmlessly into the muddy water below. The beautiful leaf remains perfectly dry. It remains completely untouched by the violent storm. Your mind must become exactly like this beautiful lotus leaf. When people throw false words at you, they are simply throwing dirty water. If your ego is very big, your mind has many rough edges. The dirty water will instantly stick to your large ego. It will soak very deeply into your tender heart. You will feel terrible pain and deep shame. But if your mind is completely smooth and deeply humble, the false words cannot stick at all. They will just slide right off your spirit and fall into the dirt. Let us look at a story about a quiet and humble bell maker. He lived entirely alone at the bottom of a high misty mountain. He spent 10 long years casting a massive bronze bell for the ancient mountain temple. He worked with profound love and total dedication. He polished the heavy bronze until it looked exactly like pure liquid gold. When he finally struck the finished bell, the sound was incredibly deep. The beautiful vibration was purely magical. It could instantly heal a very heavy and broken heart. People from many distant towns traveled for days just to hear the magnificent sound. The quiet bell maker became highly respected across the entire land. A group of proud and angry men lived in a nearby town. They were extremely jealous of the quiet bell maker. They wanted to completely destroy his great reputation. They wanted all the attention for themselves. One very dark and cold night, they secretly climbed the high mountain. They brought large wooden buckets filled with thick and sticky black mud. They completely covered the beautiful golden bell with the terrible mud. They ruined the smooth and perfect surface. The bell looked like a giant lump of ugly dirt. The next morning, the jealous men ran down to the busy village market. They loudly spread a very vicious rumor. They said the bell maker was a complete fraud. They claimed his famous bell was made of cheap and ugly dirt. They said the beautiful golden color was just a terrible lie. They shouted that he had completely tricked the entire region. The shocked and angry villagers rushed up the steep mountain path to see the absolute truth. They arrived at the temple and saw the bell completely covered in ugly black mud. The villagers began to murmur loudly. They started to deeply doubt the quiet bell maker. The jealous men smiled with deep and evil satisfaction. They aggressively demanded that the bell maker explain his terrible lie to the entire crowd. The bell maker did not look angry at all. He did not shout at the jealous men. He did not cry. He did not even try to wipe the heavy mud off with his bare hands. He simply picked up his heavy wooden mallet. He took a very deep and completely peaceful breath. He swung the mallet and struck the massive bell with all his physical strength. A massive and pure wave of sound exploded into the crisp morning air. The deep and powerful vibration moved instantly through the solid bronze. Suddenly, the thick black mud began to crack. The powerful vibration completely shattered the dry mud into 1,000 tiny pieces. Large chunks of dark dirt fell heavily to the stone floor. Within just a few seconds, all the mud was completely gone. The golden bell shined brilliantly in the bright morning sun. The sound was just as pure and absolutely perfect as before. The false mud could completely cover the metal. But the mud could never change the true and pure vibration of the noble bell. The jealous men ran away down the mountain in total shame. This is exactly how you must handle unfair gossip in your own life. You are the pure golden bell. The false rumors are just thick black mud. When someone covers your good name with ugly lies, do not panic. Do not run around the village in absolute terror. Do not try to manually wipe the mud away with desperate and loud arguments. Arguing with a committed liar only makes your own hands very dirty. When you are the victim of malicious gossip, you often feel a desperate need to immediately explain yourself. You want to knock on every single door in the town. You want to sit down with every single friend. You want to beg them to believe your true story. You want to show them the absolute truth to clear your name. But this is a completely exhausting and totally impossible task. You absolutely cannot control the rapidly changing minds of 1,000 people. You can only control your own steady and quiet reaction. You must simply continue to strike your own pure note. You must continue to live your daily life with absolute honesty and deep kindness. Your consistent good actions are the powerful vibration of the bell. When you constantly vibrate with pure truth, the heavy mud of false rumors will naturally crack. The ugly lies will eventually fall away completely on their own. The truth is incredibly heavy and totally indestructible. A lie is incredibly fragile and completely temporary. Why do false words cause us so much deep and burning pain? They only hurt us when we secretly fear they might actually be true. Or they hurt us when our entire identity is completely tied to the fleeting opinions of strangers. You must deeply realize that the opinions of others do not define your actual reality in any way. If a blind man points at the bright sun and calls it a dark moon, the sun does not suddenly stop shining. The sun does not feel deeply offended. The sun does not argue with the blind man. The sun just keeps being the warm and radiant sun. You must become exactly like the bright sun. You must find your own unshakable and completely quiet center. When you deeply know your own pure intentions, the loud noise of the outside world becomes entirely meaningless. Let angry people whisper their dark secrets in the shadows. Let them create their complicated and false stories. They are only writing the sad and heavy script of their own dark karma. They have absolutely no real power over your bright and beautiful destiny. You can watch their desperate lies roll off your spirit like tiny dewdrops on a massive lotus leaf. You remain completely dry. You remain perfectly untouched by the storm. You smile gently at the heavy rain. You maintain a pristine and absolutely unbreakable inner sanctuary of profound peace. But what exactly happens to the angry people who threw the dark mud? We have successfully protected our own pure spirit. We are completely safe and entirely at peace. Yet we must still share this wide world with those who deeply wronged us. The true test of a spiritual master is not just surviving the unfair attack. The absolute highest test is what we choose to do with the attacker afterward. How do we look directly at the person who actively tried to destroy us? How do we completely forgive those who have deeply slandered our good name? We must explore the ultimate and profound freedom found in releasing all hidden desires for revenge. We must completely heal our own hearts through boundless and absolutely pure compassion. We have built a quiet fortress. We have let the false words slide off our skin like water on a beautiful lotus leaf. We have protected our inner peace from the violent storm. But the deep journey of healing is not completely finished. We must now look directly at the person who threw the dark mud. We must look at the person who actively tried to ruin our life with their vicious rumors. What exactly do we feel when we see their face? Do we feel a hidden and burning desire for revenge? Do we secretly hope they will suffer a terrible fate for what they did? If we hold on to this dark hope, we are still not entirely free. Revenge is an incredibly tricky poison. It loves to hide behind the shining mask of pure justice. We think the universe must punish the gossiper immediately. We want to watch them fall from their high place. We want them to feel the exact same deep humiliation they caused us. We want them to cry the exact same bitter tears. But the desire for revenge is exactly like holding a burning hot piece of black coal. You pick up the hot coal with your bare hand. You hold it very tightly. You wait patiently for the perfect moment to throw it at your hated enemy. But while you stand there waiting, the hot coal is completely burning your own flesh. It is destroying your own hand. Your enemy might be walking happily on the other side of the town. They do not feel the burning heat at all. You are the only one suffering the terrible pain of your own dark intention. To find absolute true freedom, you must simply drop the hot coal. You must completely release the heavy desire to see them suffer. Let us look at a story about a brilliant village doctor. He lived in a very quiet green valley. He used rare forest herbs to gently heal the sick. He never asked for heavy bags of gold from the poor villagers. He only wanted to completely remove physical pain from the world. His heart was as pure as a clear mountain spring. A younger doctor soon moved into the exact same valley. This young doctor was incredibly greedy. He charged extremely high prices for very simple medicines. The villagers quickly realized the difference. They completely ignored the young doctor. They continued to visit the wise old doctor. The young doctor became completely consumed by a dark and heavy jealousy. He decided to destroy his kind rival. He stood in the middle of the busy village market. He started a very terrible and completely false rumor. He said the old doctor was secretly using poisonous roots from the dark swamp. He claimed the ancient medicine was actually making people slowly lose their minds. The poor villagers became extremely frightened. Fear is a very contagious disease. They stopped visiting the gentle old doctor completely. They went to the greedy young doctor and paid his terribly high prices. The old doctor lost his entire medical practice in just a few days. He became very poor and completely isolated. He had to eat wild berries from the forest just to survive. But he did not harbor a single drop of anger. He simply sat in his small wooden house. He continued to study his ancient medical books in absolute and pure silence. 3 long years passed. A very severe and strange fever swept through the entire valley. Many people became violently ill. The young greedy doctor also caught the terrible fever. He lay in his large expensive bed shaking violently. His own expensive medicines completely failed to cure him. He grew weaker and weaker every single day. He was very close to taking his final breath. No one in the entire village knew how to save his life. The old doctor heard about this tragic situation. He did not smile with cruel satisfaction. He did not say that the young doctor was finally receiving his bad karma. The old doctor immediately walked deep into the dark forest. He searched all night for a very rare and specific glowing green herb. He found the precious herb at the edge of a high cliff. He carefully placed it in his small bag. He walked directly to the large stone house of his bitter rival. He quietly entered the dark bedroom. He brewed a warm cup of sweet-smelling medicine. He gently lifted the heavy head of the young doctor. He carefully fed him the medicine drop by drop. He sat by the bed for 3 entire days and 3 entire nights. He wiped the cold sweat from the forehead of his enemy. By the dawn of the 4th morning, the young doctor slowly opened his tired eyes. The terrible fever was completely gone. He saw the old doctor sitting quietly by the window. The young man suddenly remembered all the terrible lies he had told. He burst into heavy and bitter tears. He wept loudly. He asked why the old doctor saved the life of a completely cruel enemy. The old doctor smiled very softly. He spoke with a voice like a gentle breeze. He said, "A true doctor does not look at the name of the patient. A true doctor only looks at the deep pain." He said, "My only job is to heal the sickness, not to judge the sinner." The heavy guilt inside the young doctor completely broke his dark pride. He fell to his knees and begged for absolute forgiveness. He spent the rest of his life working entirely for free. He served the poor villagers every single day to repay his massive karmic debt. This beautiful story shows the absolute peak of human compassion. The old doctor completely dropped the burning hot coal of revenge. He chose to look at his enemy as a deeply sick and suffering person. We must cultivate this exact same divine vision in our own daily lives. When someone constantly gossips about you, they are suffering from a terrible sickness of the mind. They are deeply infected with the dark fever of heavy jealousy and complete blind ignorance. A truly healthy and completely happy person does not spend their days attacking other people. Only a human soul in deep and silent agony feels the constant need to spread toxic lies. They are completely drowning in their own bitter insecurities. They are desperately screaming for attention in the absolute worst way possible. When you truly understand this fundamental truth, your burning anger naturally melts into nothingness. You stop seeing a massive and terrifying enemy. You only see a very fragile and completely broken human being. You feel a profound and quiet pity for the heavy karma they are actively creating for themselves. You realize that they are building their own dark prison entirely with their own tongue. You do not need to push them into a fire. They are already completely consumed by their own burning flames. The act of true forgiveness is the ultimate cooling rain. Forgiveness is absolutely not a gift you give to them. It is the most beautiful gift you give entirely to your own tired spirit. It is the final and most important step in completely cutting the heavy iron chain. When you truly forgive the person who slandered your good name, you instantly reclaim all your stolen vital energy. You gently wash your own heart with pure and crystal clear water. You sleep deeply and peacefully every single night because there is absolutely no hatred left inside your chest. You become exactly like a hollow bamboo tube. The harsh and bitter winds of the noisy world blow straight through you. They might make a brief and haunting melody as they pass. But they leave absolutely nothing behind. They do not get stuck inside you. Your inner world remains completely clean and perfectly empty of all dark resentment. This state of absolute forgiveness is the greatest wealth a human being can achieve. It makes you completely untouchable. You walk through the noisy world with a soft smile and a highly radiant energy. People will naturally feel your profound peace. But how do we completely maintain this beautiful purity every single day? The world will always test our patience. People will always say foolish and hurtful things. To keep our inner sanctuary completely safe, we must entirely transform our own daily speech. We have learned how to survive the bad words of others. Now we must learn exactly how to use our own tongue as a powerful and miraculous instrument of deep healing. We must build entirely new and bright habits of speaking. We must learn to speak only what is completely true and profoundly kind. Let us explore the magnificent steps to transform our daily voice into a soothing and powerful medicine. We have emptied our hearts of deep resentment. We have learned to forgive the people who hurt us completely. Our inner world is now perfectly clean and totally empty of heavy anger. But an empty room must be filled with beautiful light. If we do not fill it with light, the dark shadows will eventually return. We must actively transform our own daily speech. We must turn our tongue from a sharp weapon into a soft and soothing medicine. For many years, we have trained our tongue to be very quick. We have trained it to defend our pride. We have trained it to instantly point out the flaws of others. The tongue is just a small muscle. But it holds the power of absolute life and deep death. To change our destiny, we must retrain this very powerful muscle completely. Let us look at a beautiful story about an old gardener. He lived at the edge of a very busy town. He grew the most magnificent flowers in the entire valley. He had a special greenhouse filled with extremely rare blue orchids. These orchids took many years of profound patience to bloom. In this same town, there was a very angry young boy. He was an orphan. He lived entirely alone on the dirty streets. The townspeople constantly spoke ill of this young boy. They called him a terrible thief. They called him a wild demon. They said he would never amount to anything good. Because he heard these dark words every single day, the boy believed them completely. He acted exactly like the wild demon they described. He broke windows. He stole small apples from the market. He caused trouble entirely to get attention. One rainy afternoon, the boy was running away from an angry shopkeeper. The boy climbed over a high stone wall to hide. He landed directly inside the greenhouse of the old gardener. He lost his balance completely. He fell heavily into a massive row of the rare blue orchids. He crushed the delicate flowers into the wet dirt. He completely destroyed years of pure love and hard work. The old gardener heard the loud crash. He walked slowly into the glass room. The young boy sat in the mud shaking with deep fear. He waited for the heavy curses to fall upon him. He closed his eyes tight. He expected the old man to shout terrible insults and beat him. The old gardener looked at the broken blue orchids. Then he looked at the terrified young boy. The gardener did not shout at all. He knelt down gently in the wet dirt. He spoke with a voice completely filled with soft warmth. He said, "You must have incredibly strong legs to jump over such a high stone wall." He said a boy with such strong legs could be a master builder. He asked the boy if he wanted to help build a new wooden frame for the next generation of beautiful flowers. The young boy opened his eyes in total shock. No one had ever spoken a single kind word to him in his entire life. No one had ever looked at his wild energy and called it a useful strength. The boy burst into heavy tears. He completely dropped his angry defense. He stayed in the garden and helped the old man all afternoon. The boy never stole a single apple again. He became the most dedicated apprentice of the old gardener. He grew up to be a completely peaceful and highly respected man in the town. The old gardener completely changed the destiny of a human soul with just one single sentence. This is the absolute magic of mindful speech. The gardener could have easily spoken the absolute truth of that moment. He could have called the boy clumsy. He could have called the boy reckless. He could have shouted about the high cost of the broken blue orchids. But he chose a much higher truth. He chose the truth of pure compassion. He used his words to heal a broken spirit instead of punishing a clumsy mistake. You possess this exact same magic right now. You can use your words to completely rebuild the people around you. To practice this daily, you must build 3 massive golden gates inside your mind. Before any word leaves your lips, it must pass successfully through these 3 strict gates. The very first gate is the gate of pure truth. You must ask yourself a simple question. Is what I am about to say completely true? Do I actually know this for a fact? Or am I just repeating a loose rumor I heard in the busy market? If you are not absolutely certain, the word must stop at the very first gate. You must swallow it completely. But truth alone is not enough. The word must then travel to the second golden gate. This is the gate of absolute kindness. You must ask yourself another deep question. Is this true word actually helpful? Is it gentle? Will it bring deep peace to the person listening? Sometimes a thing is completely true, but it is terribly cruel to say out loud. If your friend has gained weight, that might be a physical truth. But pointing it out loudly in front of others is completely cruel and totally unnecessary. If the truth is completely sharp and completely unhelpful, it must stop at the second gate. You must choose absolute silence over cruel honesty. If the word is both true and very kind, it must finally pass through the third golden gate. This is the gate of perfect timing. You must deeply observe the current situation. Is this the right moment to speak? Even a beautiful and kind truth can cause pain if the timing is completely wrong. If someone is crying heavily, they do not need a long philosophical lecture. They just need a quiet presence. They just need a soft hand on their tired shoulder. You must learn to read the deep emotional weather of the room. You must wait for the absolute perfect moment to deliver your kind words. When you constantly practice checking these 3 golden gates, your entire life changes rapidly. Your daily conversations become incredibly slow and deeply meaningful. You completely stop participating in loud and angry arguments. You become a deep well of cool water for everyone who knows you. When you speak, people will immediately listen. They will lean in very close because they know your words are incredibly rare and absolutely pure. You will completely stop wasting your vital breath on cheap complaints. You will physically feel the massive difference inside your own chest. When you only speak gentle words, your physical heart beats with a very calm rhythm. Your nervous system is constantly bathed in warm and safe energy. You no longer worry about what you said yesterday. You no longer fear that someone will expose your dark secrets. You have absolutely nothing to hide. Your life becomes as clear and bright as the morning sun. This is a beautiful daily discipline. You will definitely make small mistakes. You will occasionally let a sharp word slip through the golden gates. When this happens, do not punish yourself with heavy guilt. Simply apologize completely. Forgive yourself gently. Rebuild the gates and try again the very next morning. Every single day is a fresh and beautiful opportunity to master this sacred art. You can completely wash away decades of bad habits with consistent gentle effort. But as we become masters of our own tongue, we discover a totally new and magnificent power. We learn to not just avoid negative speech. We learn exactly how to actively create massive amounts of bright karma. We move from gentle silence to active and beautiful encouragement. What happens when we completely dedicate our voice to celebrating the good in everyone? How do we plant beautiful new seeds in the vast garden of the world? Let us look deeply into the absolute magic of genuine praise. What if you held a magic key in your own pocket right now? What if you could instantly heal a broken heart with just a single breath? We have spent much time learning how to stop the heavy leaks in our spiritual boat. We have learned to keep our lips firmly closed against dark rumors. We have learned to sit quietly in the face of deep insults. But the highest spiritual path is not just about avoiding bad karma. The highest path is about actively creating a massive garden of bright and beautiful energy. We must move from the defensive shadow into the warm and radiant light. We must discover the absolute magic of genuine praise. Most people in this world are starving for a single word of deep appreciation. They work incredibly hard every single day. They carry massive burdens on their tired shoulders. They silently fight terrible battles inside their own minds. They often feel completely invisible to the busy and noisy world. When you offer a word of pure and genuine praise, you are giving them cool water in a burning desert. You are acknowledging their basic human dignity. Let us look at a beautiful story about a lonely street sweeper. He lived in a very grand and wealthy capital city. Every single morning, he woke up long before the sun. He took his heavy broom and cleaned the massive stone square. He swept away the dirt left behind by the rich merchants. He cleared the fallen leaves from the heavy marble steps. He did this dirty work for 20 long years. But no one ever looked at his face. The wealthy people walked right past him. They acted like he was just a shadow on the cold stone wall. The sweeper felt entirely worthless. He felt like his long life had absolutely no meaning. He walked with his tired head always looking down at the dusty ground. One bright morning, a wise traveling scholar arrived in the grand city. The scholar woke up very early to watch the golden sunrise. He walked into the massive stone square. He saw the lonely sweeper working quietly in the cold mist. The scholar did not walk past him. The scholar stopped completely. He watched the sweeper clear every single tiny stone with deep care. The scholar walked right up to the tired old man. He bowed very deeply. The scholar spoke with a very loud and clear voice. He said, "You are the true guardian of this magnificent city." He said, "Without your quiet and daily dedication, this grand square would be a terrible swamp." He said, "Your humble work brings immense beauty to thousands of completely blind people." The street sweeper dropped his heavy broom in absolute shock. He looked up into the warm eyes of the scholar. For the very first time in 20 years, he felt like a real human being. A massive wave of pure joy washed over his tired soul. Bright tears fell down his dusty cheeks. He picked up his broom with a completely new energy. He stood entirely straight. He no longer looked down at the dirt. He felt a profound pride in his quiet service. That single sentence from the wise scholar completely changed the remaining years of his life. The sweeper became the most joyful person in the entire capital city. He smiled at everyone. His bright energy eventually touched the hearts of all the wealthy merchants. This is the pure miracle of uplifting words. The wise scholar did not give the sweeper any heavy gold coins. He did not give him fine silk clothes. He gave him something much more valuable. He gave him back his divine human dignity. You have this exact same immense power. You walk past invisible heroes every single day. You see tired mothers completely exhausted in the busy market. You see young children struggling to learn difficult things. You see old people sitting quietly alone on wooden benches. When you stop and offer them a genuine compliment, you completely alter their reality. You plant a beautiful and bright seed in their tired heart. You water their dry spirit with pure love. But true praise is completely different from cheap flattery. Flattery is a very selfish tool. Flattery is used to manipulate people. You flatter a rich boss because you secretly want more money. You flatter a powerful person because you want to borrow their heavy influence. Flattery comes from a place of deep greed. The universe clearly sees this dark intention. Genuine praise comes entirely from a place of pure joy. We call this sympathetic joy in the spiritual path. It is the profound ability to feel truly happy for the success and beauty of someone else. You praise them simply because noticing their goodness brings light into your own heart. You expect absolutely nothing in return. When you practice genuine praise, your own karma changes instantly. Your mind becomes a massive magnet for bright blessings. The universe responds perfectly to the energy you send out. If you constantly celebrate the beauty in others, the universe will surround you with immense beauty. If you constantly celebrate the success of your friends, the universe will naturally guide you toward your own profound success. This is the absolute mathematics of positive karma. What you freely give away will always return to you multiplied 1,000 times. If you plant seeds of pure gold, you will harvest a mountain of pure gold. We must make a firm and daily habit of speaking these golden words. Do not wait for massive achievements to praise someone. Celebrate the very small and quiet victories. Praise the person who cooked your warm dinner. Tell them the food brings deep comfort to your soul. Praise the person who helped you carry a heavy box. Tell them their kindness makes the world a much better place. Look deeply into the eyes of your family members. Tell them exactly why you appreciate their quiet presence. Do not assume they already know how you feel. Words of love must be spoken out loud to create bright energy in the physical world. Your vocal cords are a divine instrument designed entirely to broadcast pure love. Even when you meet someone who is very difficult, you must look for a tiny spark of goodness inside them. Everyone has at least one beautiful quality. Perhaps they are very stubborn, but they are also deeply loyal. Praise their fierce loyalty. When you focus entirely on their bright spark, that spark will naturally grow into a warm flame. Your kind words can literally pull the goodness out of a broken person. You become a master gardener of human souls. You walk through the dusty world planting pure joy everywhere you go. Your daily speech becomes a continuous and beautiful song of healing. Your voice becomes a safe harbor for the broken people of the world. But as we walk this bright path, we will still encounter people who absolutely refuse to change. We will still meet people who are entirely addicted to their own bitter gossip. We will see them completely trapped in their heavy iron chains. We will hear them shouting their dark rumors in the busy streets. When our own hearts are completely full of this new light, how do we look at these suffering people? How do we treat the gossiper who still attacks us from the dark shadows? We must elevate our vision to the absolute highest mountain peak. We must learn to look at the cruel gossiper with eyes of deep and pure compassion rather than burning anger. We must elevate our vision to the absolute highest mountain peak. We must learn to look at the cruel gossiper with eyes of deep and pure compassion rather than burning anger. When our own hearts are completely full of bright light, the darkness of others no longer feels like a heavy threat. We completely stop seeing them as dangerous enemies. We start to see them as profoundly sick patients in a spiritual hospital. If you walk into a quiet hospital room, you might see a patient shaking with a terrible fever. The sick person might shout very loudly. They might throw their cup of water on the clean floor. They might say completely foolish things because their brain is burning with high heat. You would never look at this sick person and feel deep hatred. You would never shout back at them. You would completely understand that the fever is talking, not the actual person. You would only feel a massive wave of soft pity for their physical suffering. You must apply this exact same pure vision to the loud gossiper. When someone speaks terrible lies about you, they are suffering from a massive spiritual fever. Their mind is completely burning with the hot fire of jealousy. Their heart is heavily infected with deep ignorance. The cruel words coming out of their mouth are just the dark smoke from their internal fire. Let us look at a beautiful story about a quiet ferryman. He lived beside a very wide and fast river. He owned a small wooden boat. Every single day, he rowed travelers across the dangerous water. He was a man of absolute peace. His face was always completely calm. He listened to the gentle sound of the river and smiled at the open sky. One hot afternoon, a very angry merchant came to the riverbank. The merchant had just lost all his gold in the busy city market. His heart was completely full of bitter rage. He felt that the entire world was completely against him. He stepped heavily into the small wooden boat. He immediately started shouting at the quiet ferryman. The merchant called the ferryman completely lazy. He said the small boat was dirty and entirely unsafe. He insulted the simple clothes of the old man. He mocked the slow and steady way the ferryman rowed the heavy wooden oars. He spent the entire journey across the wide river throwing cruel words at the gentle old man. The ferryman did not say a single word in return. He did not frown. He did not row the boat any faster. He just kept his eyes entirely focused on the calm water. He breathed very deeply and rowed with perfect grace. The complete silence of the ferryman made the merchant even more angry. The merchant shouted louder and louder until his face turned bright red. Finally, the small boat reached the far side of the wide river. The ferryman gently tied the thick rope to a heavy wooden post. He stepped out of the boat. He offered his strong hand to help the angry merchant step safely onto the dry land. The merchant slapped the hand away completely. The merchant glared at the peaceful old man. The merchant shouted a very loud question. He asked, "Are you completely deaf or just completely stupid? I have insulted your entire life for an hour, and you say absolutely nothing. Do you have no human pride at all?" The ferryman smiled with eyes full of profound love. He spoke with a voice as soft as a passing breeze. He said, "My dear friend, you are carrying a massive and burning fire inside your chest. Your heavy words are just the dark smoke from your terrible pain. If I shout back at you, I will only catch your dangerous fire. I do not feel any anger toward you at all. I only feel deep sorrow that you must carry this burning pain everywhere you go. I truly hope you find cool water for your burning heart." The angry merchant was completely frozen in total shock. His loud voice entirely vanished. He looked into the pure eyes of the old ferryman. He saw absolutely no judgment there. He only saw a deep and boundless compassion. The massive fire inside the chest of the merchant suddenly died completely. He dropped his heavy bags on the wet grass. He bowed very low to the humble ferryman. He walked away in absolute and complete silence. This is the magnificent power of unwavering and silent love. The ferryman did not try to fix the angry merchant. He did not try to give him a long spiritual lecture. He simply refused to catch the fire. He looked at the cruel hostility and recognized it exactly for what it truly was. It was just a desperate cry for deep healing. When you truly master this high level of spiritual vision, your entire life becomes a beautiful miracle. You can walk straight into a room full of angry gossipers, and you will not feel a single drop of fear. You will look at their moving lips and completely understand their hidden agony. You will realize that a person who constantly tears others down is actually living in a very dark and terrifying hell of their own making. They cannot trust anyone in the world. They cannot sleep without heavy anxiety. They cannot enjoy a simple cup of warm tea because their mind is always searching for bitter conflict. Their sharp tongue is entirely a defense mechanism. It is a very fragile shield built by a deeply terrified child hiding inside an adult body. When you see this profound truth, you completely lose the desire to fight them. You lose the desire to defend your own name. You simply observe them with the eyes of a deeply loving mother watching a crying baby. A mother does not hate her baby for crying loudly in the middle of the dark night. She knows the baby is completely helpless. She just rocks the baby gently until the crying stops completely. You must rock the angry world with your deep internal silence. You must surround the gossiper with a massive invisible field of pure peace. You do not even need to speak out loud. Your highly calm energy will naturally speak for you. When they throw their dark and heavy words at you, they will feel like they are throwing small stones into a massive and quiet ocean. The ocean completely swallows the stones without making a single sound. This deep compassion protects you entirely. It also gives the gossiper a very rare chance to finally heal. When they see that you absolutely refuse to fight them, their dark energy has nowhere to go. Their burning fire runs completely out of oxygen. They might finally stop and look directly at their own profound pain. Your silent love becomes the absolute greatest teacher they will ever meet. But holding this level of supreme compassion requires a totally pure vessel. If there is even a tiny drop of hidden pride inside you, the compassion will turn into quiet arrogance. You might start looking down on the gossiper. You might think you are a much better person than they are. This hidden arrogance is just another very dangerous trap of the ego. We must be extremely careful not to turn our spiritual progress into a shiny badge of superiority. If you feel proud of your deep silence, you have already lost the profound peace. True compassion is completely humble. It does not place you above the suffering person. It places you right beside them in the vast human family. To maintain this absolute humility, we must constantly clean our own internal house. We must sweep away the invisible dust of our own hidden judgments every single day. We must realize that the seeds of gossip and anger still exist quietly inside our own deep consciousness. We are not completely perfect. We are just walking a slightly brighter path today. How do we gently clear the mind of all residual judgments? How do we completely restore our inner world to a state of crystal clear clarity? We must move into the absolute deepest practice of the spiritual journey. We must prepare our spirits for a life of complete and absolute freedom. Let us explore exactly how to wash our own heart entirely clean of all worldly attachments. How do we gently clear the mind of all residual judgments? How do we completely restore our inner world to a state of pure clarity? We must realize that cleaning the mind is a completely beautiful and daily habit. We take a bath every day to wash the dirt from our physical bodies. The mind requires the exact same gentle care. If you leave a beautiful white table in an empty room, dust will naturally settle on it. The dust does not hate the table. It is just a natural part of the passing world. Your mind is exactly like that bright white table. The invisible dust of judgment will always try to settle on your thoughts. You might hear a rumor and feel a tiny spark of agreement. You might see a person make a mistake and feel a fleeting sense of superiority. This does not make you a terrible person. It just means you are a living human being in a complex world. The goal is simply to wipe the table clean before the dust becomes a heavy layer of dark mud. Let us look at a story of a devoted glass worker. He lived in a quiet coastal town. He made the most transparent glass vessels in the entire world. People asked him for the secret to his absolute perfection. He smiled and said the true secret was in the daily polishing. Every single morning, he woke up before the birds. He took a very soft cloth and wiped every single piece of glass in his shop. One day, a young apprentice asked why he polished the glass when it was already clean. The old man told the boy to look very closely at a bowl he had skipped. The boy saw a microscopic layer of gray salt from the ocean wind. The glass worker explained that the salt is completely invisible on the first day. But if you leave it for a week, the glass becomes completely cloudy. He polished the glass daily to keep it perfectly receptive to the light. Your heart works in the exact same beautiful way. When you forgive someone, you wipe away a large layer of heavy mud. But the subtle salt of daily life will still blow into your mind. You will still have tiny passing thoughts of hidden pride. You must become the joyful glass worker of your own consciousness. Every single night before you sleep, you must gently review your day. Look at the small moments where your mind lost its pure clarity. Did you judge someone silently in the busy market? Did you feel a tiny spike of anger when someone spoke loudly? Do not hold on to these moments with heavy guilt. Simply acknowledge them completely. Breathe in very deeply. Breathe out and imagine the subtle dust leaving your bright mind completely. This simple nightly practice is incredibly powerful. You wake up the next morning beautifully receptive to new joy. When you clear your mind every single day, you develop a state of profound emptiness. This is the magnificent emptiness of a clear blue sky. The sky is completely empty, which allows the bright sun to shine through perfectly. When your heart is completely empty of judgment, pure love naturally rushes in. You completely stop needing the world to perfectly match your specific expectations. You let go of the heavy burden of being the moral judge of the universe. This is the ultimate state of spiritual freedom. You are no longer trapped by your own rigid opinions. You see the divine beauty hidden deeply inside every passing stranger. The anxious fear of the future dissolves into total nothingness. You are left only with the profound beauty of the present moment. How do we ensure that this profound peace becomes the permanent melody of our daily existence? We must bring all these teachings together into one final and beautiful harmony. We must embrace a beautiful life of absolute silence and profound joy. We must take the final step forward with a renewed and perfectly pure spirit. We must bring all these teachings together into one beautiful harmony. We have traveled a very long and deep journey together. We have looked into the darkest corners of human anger. We have seen the terrible destruction caused by a careless tongue. We have also discovered the immense healing power of absolute silence. Now we stand at the very edge of a completely new life. The path ahead is bathed in bright and warm light. This new life does not require you to move to a distant mountain. It does not require you to wear special clothes or live in an isolated cave. The true spiritual sanctuary is built right in the middle of the noisy world. You build it entirely with your daily choices. You build it by choosing deep compassion over cheap judgment. Let us look at a beautiful story about a master flute maker. He lived in a vibrant village full of constant music. He carved the most extraordinary bamboo flutes. His flutes produced a sound that could make the hardest heart melt. A young boy traveled across the country to learn this sacred art. The boy spent his first year carving the outside of the bamboo. He made it perfectly smooth. He painted it with beautiful colors. But when he blew into the flute, the sound was terrible and flat. The boy cried in deep frustration. He asked the master what he was doing wrong. The master smiled gently. The master said, "You are entirely focused on the outside. The true music does not come from the beautiful paint. The true music comes entirely from the empty space inside the bamboo. If the inside is not completely hollow and perfectly clean, the air cannot flow. The music will always be trapped." The master taught the boy to stop decorating the outside. He taught the boy to carefully clear away all the rough wood inside the tube. He taught him to create a perfect and quiet emptiness. When the boy finally cleared the inside, his flute produced a completely divine melody. Your own mind is exactly like that bamboo flute. We spend so much time trying to look perfect on the outside. We use sharp words to protect our image. We gossip to make ourselves look very smart and important. But all of this only clogs the inside of our spirit. It leaves absolutely no room for the fresh air of peace to flow. When you stop judging others, you are clearing the rough wood from inside your own heart. When you forgive those who hurt you, you are creating a vast and beautiful emptiness. This emptiness is not a cold void. It is a warm and highly receptive space. It is the exact space where true joy is born. Imagine your life as a completely clean instrument. The breath of the universe flows through you every single day. If you hold on to bitterness, the sound of your life will be a harsh scream. If you maintain a pure and quiet heart, the sound of your life will be a magnificent song. People will naturally want to be near you. They will feel completely safe in your gentle presence. You no longer need to fight the world to find your place in it. You simply become a deep well of peace. When someone brings you an ugly rumor, you let it fall into your quiet water. You do not send the ripples back out. You absorb the pain of the world and you transform it into pure love. This is the absolute highest purpose of a human being. We spoke earlier about the invisible ripples of dark gossip. We saw how a single cruel word can destroy an entire village. But the exact opposite is also completely true. The ripples of your loving speech are just as powerful. They are just as unstoppable. When you speak a word of pure encouragement, that bright energy travels far beyond your sight. The tired mother you praised in the market goes home with a warm heart. She speaks gently to her small children. Those children go to school and share their happy energy with their young friends. Your single kind word has secretly healed a dozen lives. This is the magnificent mathematics of good karma. You are constantly painting the canvas of the world with the colors of your speech. For many years, you might have used dark and heavy colors. But today, you hold a completely new brush. You have a palette full of bright gold and soft blue. You can paint a masterpiece of human connection. You can build invisible bridges of absolute trust. Never underestimate the profound value of your quiet presence. In a world that never stops shouting, a quiet person is a rare and precious treasure. You do not need to offer brilliant advice to someone who is hurting. You do not need to fix their complicated problems. You only need to sit completely still beside them. You only need to listen with a totally open and accepting heart. This pure listening is the highest form of spiritual speech. It communicates that the person is seen completely. It communicates that they are totally safe. It communicates that their pain is completely valid and supported. This silent communication heals deep wounds that no doctor can ever touch. This transformation happens one breath at a time. It happens one conversation at a time. Tomorrow morning, you will wake up and face the busy world again. You will hear people complaining. You will see people making mistakes. The old urge to criticize will definitely rise in your chest. The urge is just an old habit knocking on your door. You do not need to fight the habit. You simply refuse to open the door. You take a deep breath. You smile at the old habit and you let it walk away. You choose the path of the beautiful lotus leaf. You let the dirty water slide completely off your spirit. When you make this choice consistently, a profound miracle occurs. Your physical body becomes very light. The heavy tension in your shoulders entirely disappears. The tight muscles in your jaw completely relax. You start to see the world with completely new eyes. You see the deep suffering hidden behind the angry faces of strangers. You feel a massive wave of absolute kinship with all living beings. You realize that we are all walking the exact same difficult path. We are all just looking for a little bit of happiness. We are all trying to avoid pain. When someone says a cruel thing, they are just lost in the dark. They have forgotten their own divine nature. You do not need to punish them for being lost. You just need to shine your own bright light so they can find their way home. Your gentle words become a guiding lantern in the dark night. Your deep silence becomes a safe harbor for tired souls. You become exactly what the broken world desperately needs. You become a living embodiment of pure and unconditional love. This is the profound melody of peace. It plays softly in the background of your entire life. It follows you to the busy market. It sits with you in your quiet home. It watches over you while you sleep. It is the beautiful reward for a disciplined and loving tongue. The path of healing is now fully open before you. The true journey is beginning for you right now. You possess all the tools you need to build a magnificent life. You hold the magic key of genuine praise. You wear the unbreakable armor of deep forgiveness. You carry the profound strength of absolute silence. You are completely ready to step forward into the bright sun. Walk gently on this earth. Speak only words that bring healing and deep joy. Look at everyone you meet with eyes of profound compassion. Let your entire life become a beautiful offering of peace. The universe is watching you with immense love. The universe celebrates your brave choice to break the heavy chains of karma. You are fully supported by the boundless grace of the world. Breathe very deeply. Feel the warm light filling your entirely clean heart. Step forward with a renewed and perfectly pure spirit. May your days be filled with endless harmony. May your beautiful mind forever rest in absolute and perfect peace.